What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today. We got 6 incredible topics we're going to be breaking down for you guys today. We're going to give you an update in regards to the upcoming DCU Lantern series as they have officially cast their Jon Stewart. We're definitely going to talk about that a little bit. Ewan McGregor talking about the potential for Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2. We also got some big news when it comes to casting for the Voltron live action film and a ton more, guys. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and we'll see you on the other side. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, watching us wherever you are watching us from. It is another episode of A-Plus Hero Report, wrapping up your weekend right with the hottest news in movies and television from your favorite franchises and fandoms. What's going on, Stewart? It's good to see you, buddy, man. I love hanging out with you every weekend. We got some great topics we're going to dive into today, but how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Still trying to wake up, but I'm about to finish my first cup of coffee, so I'll get there.
I love how you pointed out your first cup of coffee.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely turning into like a 2-cup kind of guy. I don't know what it is, but I feel like even like mornings, waking up in the middle of the week for work, I feel like I'm turning into a 2-cup of coffee type of guy.
I feel like I was born a 2-cup of coffee guy.
That's one of the reasons why we were a little bit late going live today. I had to go pick up one of my favorite coffees out here in Fort Worth, Summer Moon. Absolutely love this spot. I no longer drink Starbucks, really. Starbucks feels so watered down to me now.
Yeah, it's now that I've started like going to Phil's a lot more often, it's like funny because I have a sweet tooth, and yet now whenever I go to Starbucks, I'm like, oh man, their espresso drinks are too sweet for me now.
Oh wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, because I've just gotten used to like Phil's, where it's like they have their own espresso drinks that are like I don't know, like they definitely have sugar in it. It just doesn't feel as strong as like the Starbucks coffees do.
I got you. Big week here, guys. We got a ton of stuff that we're going to be talking for you guys today. We got some honorable mentions to go ahead and kick off the show. 6 incredible topics, and of course, your questions towards the end. Next weekend, I believe I think we've got 2 big conventions going this week. New York City Comic-Con begins this week. And then out here in Dallas, believe it or not, we've got a Dallas Fan Festival next weekend, next Saturday and Sunday. There may not be a new live episode of A-Plus Hero Report on Sunday, but I'll keep you guys posted. Myself and Josh, we're going to be Josh from WrestleManiacs podcast for you guys who watch our wrestling side of things here. Him and I are going to be providing coverage for the Dallas Fan Festival out in Irving, Texas here next weekend. So we're going to be recording some panels. Maybe we'll go live from the showroom floor, whether that be on Facebook or Instagram. But we may not have an episode of A-Plus Hero Report. But I know James Gunn plans on having an announcement or revealing some more stuff at New York Comic-Con this weekend. If he does have any big announcements, maybe we'll do like an individual video to kind of highlight those or surround those, or maybe talk about some New York Comic-Con stuff in their own individual videos throughout next week. So I just want to keep you guys a heads up in regards to how crazy next weekend might be in the form of news. But Hero Report may not be live for you guys, just to give you a heads up. But I'm looking forward to it, Stuart. Believe it or not, Dallas Fan Festival is like having an Arrowverse reunion right now. I mean, the whole entire lineup is Arrowverse cast members. I'm talking The Flash, I'm talking Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, even Superman and Lois are certainly going to be there with Michael Cudetz, who plays Lex Luthor. He's going to be there too. I mean, the lineup looks hella impressive, man. It's really going to be a celebration of saying farewell to Arrowverse, I feel like.
That's awesome. Hopefully you're able to get at least one interview from one of them.
We'll see if we'll get some interviews. What I would like to do is I would like to try and maybe go to their panels and ask at least ask a question
Mhm.
in regards to each of those panels and see what kind of clips we can make out of it and post online. So we'll see, but we will definitely have a ton of content for you guys that weekend and following from Dallas Fan Festival for sure.
Do you know if like the Arrowverse actors are all having like one big panel together, or are they
Though
probably going to do in their own panels like based on their individual shows?
it looks like it's a combination of both. It looks like from the schedule that I've been able to see, they have had like individual shows, but then they do have like individual panels for like their particular shows. But then I think they're grouping maybe some people together for other ones. Like I think there's a big Superman panel that's going to happen. Like Dean Cain is going to be there, Brandon Routh is going to be there,
Ooh.
and I think one of the animated voices is it Tim Daly. I can't. Maybe that's the wrong name I'm thinking of, but so I do believe there's gonna be like like 3 or 4 Supermen that are going to be in attendance at that panel. But yeah, it's going to be broken down between their shows and then a combination of certain actors together.
Watch someone in the audience is like, so which Superman is the best? And then each of the actors are like, me. Oh yeah, and then just like see a big fight between all the Superman actors.
It should be pretty fun. But look, if you guys are in the Dallas Fort Worth area of Texas next weekend, I highly recommend you guys check it out. Again, it's only going to be 2 days. It's next Saturday and next Sunday. There's a part of me that wants to say that I'm used to them doing their shows like a 3-day event, but the Dallas Fan Festival tends to be a little bit on the smaller side of things when it comes to conventions. So I think that's probably why they're not having it to such a big weekend. But it should still be a fun one to certainly say the least. Let's give some shout outs to people that are joining us here this morning. We always appreciate when you guys interact with us. So trust me, as we go through some of these topics, whether they be honorable mentions or our top 6, feel free to go ahead and let your thoughts be known in the comment section box, or I should say the live chat, if you will. We'll definitely bounce some conversation off of you guys. If you want to support the channel monetarily, you can go ahead and do a super chat. We'll certainly stop what we're doing, bring you up on the screen, and certainly go ahead and discuss your topic or your question. But if you can't help us out monetarily, that's more than fine. Hitting that like button goes a long way. Sharing these videos, retweeting these videos certainly help. Let people know APlus Hero Report is currently live. But let's give some shout outs to people that are watching us live today. Enrique Perez, what's going on? Brother from another mother over here. Hey, Adam, I saw the new official trailer for Moana 2, new scenes and new songs from the sequel. I did see that a new one dropped. I hadn't had the opportunity to check it out for myself though, but I am really looking forward to Moana 2. Did you see the new trailer by any chance, Stewart?
Nope, not yet.
Enrique, he also says, I also saw the official trailer for the upcoming horror Nosferatu. Yes, that looks great. And
Yeah.
it arrives in theaters in December. I'm really looking forward to that one, Stewart. I did they ever have an original movie? If they did, I think I certainly missed that one. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of William Dafoe.
So with Nosferatu, the first one was in 1928, and it was meant to be a Dracula movie, but they couldn't get the rights to it, so they created their own vampire with the exact same story, and they called I can't remember, it was like Olaf or something, but the movie was called Nosferatu. And then there was another movie, funny enough, Willem Dafoe played Nosferatu in this. It was about the making of the 1928 Nosferatu movie, but the plot was that they were trying to make it, but they used a real vampire to play the vampire, and the vampire in the movie was played by Willem Dafoe. So the joke was they couldn't stop him from eating a lot of the cast and crew while they were making it, so it made like the production a disaster. And because no one, I think it's not recorded who actually played or Olaf in that original movie.
Okay.
So you know the theory is, for all we know, it could have been a vampire that they got to play him.
Nice. I love it. I love it. And then we also got, he says, also saw a small teaser trailer for Goosebumps sequel series titled Goosebumps The Vanishing, and it'll be released next year. Also confirmed that the live action Lilo and Stitch arriving May 2025 and Freaky Friday in August of next year.
Another Freaky Friday remake?
I think this is the same. This isn't the same one where, this isn't the same one where they had they
Oh
just
wait,
released like new
sequel.
photos.
Oh,
Yeah, sequels.
that's
Yeah.
right. I forgot. My bad.
Um, let's see here. What else is he saying? We got Blossom in the house. What's up, Blossom? Certainly good to see you. Darth Gutierrez. What's up, man? Good to see you, sir. Always a pleasure. Hunter in the house. What's up, Hunter? Appreciate you coming through. What's up? What is your thoughts on people bashing Aaron Pierre for getting cast as Jon Stewart? And is it because colorism? Because he is not dark? You know, I did see somebody. I didn't want to talk about this during the Jon Stewart segment because I personally don't really care, but I have been hearing. I did see somebody do a video that said we need to talk about colorism a little bit because it happens quite often in the sense of like they're being upset that Aaron Pierre got the job, but he's not like a dark skinned black person. And I don't know, man. I like, you know, there is a part of me that understands the worry that some people have because I feel like it's even a thing like not just in black culture but even like say Hispanic culture too, you know, like I hear a lot from my girlfriend that the idea that you know, dark skinned Mexicans or dark skinned Hispanics, like some people don't view them as attractive as like lighter skinned Hispanics or Mexicans or something like that. Like they get treated a certain type of way. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to say like it's a status thing, but like, you know, you're more prone to getting positions and getting recognized. And, you know, if you're a little bit on the fairer skin sort of side of things. And, you know, there may be some elements of truth to that. I don't know if it's as big of an issue or as a thing as some people make it out to be. I mean, maybe it is. But for me, I'm just like he's black. I'm cool with it. Like I'm personally cool with it. Like the guy's black. Like he's representing me, and look how light I am. You know what I'm saying? And it's not because I mean, if he was super dark skinned, I wouldn't care either. I mean, he would still represent me on the big screen. But I mean, I do get the concern that some people have, but the idea of making it into a bigger issue than I personally believe that it is, you know, I hope it doesn't take them away from truly at least enjoying the Jon Stewart character, because first and foremost, you know, it's going to be what his acting ability is, not what the color of his skin certainly is. And he still represents Jon Stewart. He's still a black man. Let's not get it twisted here. It's just the fact that his skin tends to be lighter than others. And so, you know, I'm perfectly cool. We still got a black man representing Jon Stewart. I don't care what shade he comes in. I'm cool with it, man. But yeah.
It'd be a whole nother story if they cast like a white person as Jon Stewart. Then it's like, okay, now I can see why people are upset about this.
Yeah. No, if it's a white person, then we have some issues. Y-Arc says he got green eyes. Yeah, he does got green eyes. I'm like, man, is he wearing contacts or what? Yeah, look, I really don't know what his upbringing is like. I would be curious to learn more about him. I do find him like physically, when I look at him, I do think to myself like, wow, he's a really unique like looking gentleman. You know what I'm saying? Like I do wonder like what his life's background certainly is. But yeah, guys, to each their own. But it's not enough for me to complain about it or feel like this movie can't be successful or like that Hollywood is purposefully doing this type of stuff. I don't necessarily think that's the case, especially when I think of like who the people are behind the scenes, whether that be casting director or James Gunn himself. I think at the end of the day, he's always going to get the person that's the most qualified for the job. And he had some great stiff competition for sure.
I imagine this was something that a lot of actors were going for. So yeah, it must have been like I mean, I guess like you could say that for like every DC character. Like, yeah, I imagine like with how many big like actors you'll have going for it, trying to cast, it must be like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Marcelino, what's up, Marcelino? Appreciate you coming through. Says just got back from Goldman's live stream. Very nice. Hopefully it was a good one. What's up, Chill? Good to see you, man. He says, not his skin tends to be lighter than others. The problem is specific to looking like Jon Stewart. I mean, I still think he can look like Jon Stewart. I guess I get the idea that in the comic books, Jon Stewart has always been sort of like a darker sort of gentleman. So I get the idea. Like I understand. Like I get the idea of some people have an issue with the fact that he's not darker. But for me as a black man, I'm just glad that he stayed black. I'm just
Mhm.
glad that he's a black man. But to each their own. If that's the argument that they want to have, or the pushback that they want to have, that's more than fine. That's more than fine. I got no problem with it whatsoever.
To me, I feel
Uh,
like it's kind of hard to have someone to look exactly like they do in the comic books. I mean, like, there's a specific kind of jawline that you'd have to pull off every comic book character, and I don't think a single actor, maybe a couple, but very few actors have that kind of jawline. So it's like you're usually not going to get a 100% accurate like looking actor for a role.
um. All right. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into our first segment of the day. You ready, Stuart?
I am indeed.
And we're going to get into some honorable mentions for you guys today. Some topics that we felt that you certainly still deserve to know about, but didn't quite necessarily make our top 6 topics today. Stuart, were you able to find an honorable mention to talk about today?
Unfortunately, no. But I do have like a
What you got?
rumor, so I'll just bring it up.
Okay.
So fun, kind of a fun rumor. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. Is that David Zaslav is going to be kind of like basically using his higher ranks to get James Gunn to put Robert Pattinson's Batman into the DC universe, which is something that in the past I said that I actually would like to see, but I also wouldn't want to see it if both James Gunn and Matt Reeves are against that idea, because then you'll be kind of you'll be kind of forcing writers that have like a specific vision to kind of like work around that vision. So personally, I hope that's not the case, if it's not on their terms. But if it's something that like both Matt Reeves and James Gunn agree with, then I'm totally cool with it. But again, that's just a rumor, so I don't want to
Huh.
like put it as like an actual news topic.
Yeah, I would be kind of curious as to how that would play out. Like I would be curious if if we get to a Superman movie and they talk about Gotham and then like Superman's demeanor just changes. Like, yeah, we don't go to Gotham. Gotham is just a whole different league. Like they got that monster out there called Batman. Like who knows who that guy is? Like I am kind of curious as to who the Batman in the DCU will end up being. I personally would like to keep them separate. If you ask me, I definitely would like to see a James Gunn take on Batman. And I think we talked about this in the past, Stuart, that some people um while I think some people appreciate a grounded Batman, I think some people are kind of over a grounded Batman. They kind of want to see some more fantastical elements included. So I have a feeling that there's probably some people out there too that are okay with the idea of like, no, let's just get a separate Batman. Like, then I'm sure there are all the people that are complaining there's too many separate Batman projects going on right now too. So I don't know where they're gonna land. I personally think it's a rumor though. I think let Matt Reeves do what he needs to do, and then just have James Gunn introduce us to a different Batman in his world. Personally,
Yeah.
Arc says the DCU version is Batman Fantastical. I believe that's the direction that they're going for sure.
It'd be pretty underwhelming if they decided to go with two grounded Batmans at the same exact time.
Yeah, I definitely need, like, if James Gunn is going to do a separate Batman, I definitely do need it to be a little bit more fantastical.
Mm.
Couple other honorable mentions for you guys. I didn't bring up images for these, so I do apologize. But Prey star Amber Midthunder. You guys recall the Predator movie Prey? She is set to join the upcoming Godzilla series Monarch season 2 on Apple Television. Variety.com this week had an exclusive report saying that she was going to be joining Monarch Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV Plus. The rest of the cast continues to include Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell. as well as others. But yeah, Amber Midthunder will appear as Isabel, described as an intelligent and professional, powerful businesswoman. So we'll see how her role plays out in Monarch. But I don't think Amber Midthunder. More Amber Midthunder is never a bad thing, Stuart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually didn't even see season 1. I wasn't sure if it was getting a season 2, but I'll definitely have to check it out at some point. But I don't even know if I have Apple TV at the moment.
I think we had it like a free subscription for a year or something like that. I didn't finish Monarch, but I watched the first like 3 or 4 episodes. I enjoyed it. What else do we got here? Honorable mentions. Will Smith and Michael Bay may be teaming up again, Stuart.
Oh,
Um,
for another
ye-
Bad Boys movie?
Not quite, but it is a new action film on Netflix titled Fast and Loose. Fast and Loose says from Deadline.com. Will Smith and Michael Bay eyeing a reunion on Netflix action pick Fast and Loose. Says following the success of Bad Boys Ride or Die, Will Smith is looking to reunite in a big way with the director who helped launch the Bad Boys franchise nearly 30 years ago. While a deal isn't officially closed, sources tell Deadline that Michael Bay is in final negotiations to direct the action picture Fast and Loose, which will star Smith. Sources add that while a start date isn't official, the film would likely be the next project for both A-listers. So yeah, we've seen these two work together in the past to great success, Stuart. I think it can happen again. While I do think Michael Bay certainly has its own unique directing style, it's one that certainly works if you find a really good movie. And I wouldn't mind seeing these two come back together. I think they can make something great. Honestly.
Yeah. So with Michael Bay being behind it, it's something that I probably wouldn't be hyped for, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing.
What was that Michael Bay ambulance movie? Was it called Ambulance?
Oh man, I know which one you're talking about. I think it was.
Was that with Jake Gyllenhaal, right? I believe it was Ambulance.
Yeah, it was Ambulance.
I didn't get a chance to see that film, so I am kind of curious if Michael Bay wrote that movie or not. I know he directed it. If Michael Bay is just directing this Fast and Loose, then it might be pretty good. It might be pretty good, but we'll
They'll
see.
definitely have your like all the explosions you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last but not least, the upcoming Karate Kid sequel unveils its official title this week, Stuart. Believe it or not, we have ourselves a new logo for the upcoming Karate Kid sequel. Let me bring up the article so you guys can see it. Sony's new Karate Kid movie is headed to theaters next May, and now we finally know what the film will be called. Sony Pictures revealed Karate Kid Legends. That's going to be the name of the movie.
See, with it being sandwiched between Venom and Craven, I'm starting to wonder if this is going to now take place in the Spider-Man universe.
Oh no! That they will have a film panel for Karate Kid Legends in New York at New York Comic Con next Friday. So they probably will talk a little bit about it. Hopefully some new images and whatnot. So expect some details for Karate Kid Legends. But the next Karate Kid movie is set to drop May 30th. 2025. So we do have a release date for Karate Kid Legends. I don't know how I like the title personally, Stuart.
It's kind of generic. Not
it's
the most
generic.
Creative, but I don't hate it.
It's kind of just generic for me.
I'll have one question that I hope they answer at the New York Comic Con panel. I need to know, is Cobra Kai canon?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe somebody will ask that question. I do wonder if I hope it's addressed in the movie, at least if they reference any of the events in Cobra Kai, or at least drop a name drop or something like that would be pretty fun. I want a Jolo Maradona cameo real quick, just briefly in it personally. But we'll see how it comes together.
Mm-hmm.
Marcelino says it sounds like some kind of Karate Kid video game. Yeah, it does sound like a video game title. I probably would have been okay with like Karate Kid 5 or something like that, but just something generic, even more generic.
I guess it's the
or Part 5.
Yeah, I guess since the remake in this case is canon, I think this would make it Part 6.
It's Part 6. Damn, you're right? Because the next Karate Kid was 4. Jackie Chan's was 5. Yeah, I guess this would be Karate Kid Part 6. You're right. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Those are just some of the honorable mentions that we had for you guys this week. So let me know about what do you guys think about some of those. But Stewart, with that out of the way, man, are you ready to get into our main topics today?
Always.
Let's do it, man. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our main story for the day. As you guys saw at the top, our thumbnail, getting the opportunity to highlight the upcoming DCU series Lanterns as the show, along with, believe it or not, the Supergirl movie, go into production this January. Both projects are currently in pre-production. They're going through their casting as of right now. I believe there were actually even some rumors earlier this week, Stewart, that they might have cast a female role in the upcoming Lantern series. But we're going to be talking a little bit about James Gunn's Lantern, as over the past couple of weeks, we've been keeping you guys up to date in regards to all the casting news, whether that had been Josh Brolin being offered the role of Hal Jordan, not accepting it, then the role being picked up by none other than Kyle Chandler himself to go ahead and play Hal Jordan going forward. And really all eyes for quite some time was set on the role of John Stewart. We had two names that were coming down to the wire on the short list. Aaron Pierre from Rebel Ridge most recently, and then we also had another fantastic actor in Stephen James. Two big names wind up making it to the short list. They wind up having screen tests last Thursday and Friday as well. I would assume those probably included some chemistry reads, costume work a little bit as well, wearing the costume, delivering the lines and stuff. So a busy weekend for James Gunn, to certainly say the least. But ladies and gentlemen, this week we finally got our official announcement as to who John Stewart is going to be, and it will be none other than Aaron Pierre himself, Stewart. I saw a lot of fan casting for him, especially after Rebel Ridge wind up dropping over on Netflix. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to check it out, please go ahead and do so. I've heard great things about it. I was going to try and check out this Rebel Ridge before we came live, but I had a late evening yesterday. I wasn't able to certainly go ahead and check it out, but I am looking forward to seeing what Aaron Pierre is certainly going to bring to the role. I personally, even though it was a brief role for him, I did enjoy him in Krypton in the sci-fi Superman series, if you guys never had the opportunity to check it out. But he's returning to DC in the role now officially as John Stewart. John Stewart. But let's go ahead and dive into the news here. This comes to us from Deadline.com. Lanterns Aaron Pierre cast as John Stewart in the DC series. Aaron Pierre from Rebel Ridge has been tapped to star in Lanterns, HBO's high-profile series based on the Green Lantern DC comics. He is set to play John Stewart opposite Hal Jordan, a role Kyle Chandler has been in negotiations for and expected to close. Pierre landed the John Stewart part after an extensive search, as Deadline reported 2 weeks ago. In the process's final stage, he had emerged as the front runner alongside Stephen James. The series from Ozark, Chris Mundy, Watchmen's Damon Lindelof, and comic book writer Tom King follows new recruit John Stewart and Lantern legend Jordan, two intergalactic cops drawn into a dark Earth-based mystery as they investigate a murder in the American heartland. Pierre leads the cast of Jeremy Saulner's Rebel Ridge, which has been #1 movie on Netflix for 3 weeks. And he next voices the character of Mufasa in Barry Jenkins' animated Lion King. I didn't know that was Aaron Pierre doing the voice for Mufasa. Pierre also recently starred as Malcolm X in the Nat Geo series Genius MLK-X. His credits also include Garth Davis Foe alongside Paul Mescal, who's, I believe Paul Mescal is going to be in Gladiator 2, if I'm not mistaken, also. So yeah, man, we got ourselves our brand new John Stewart here. The 8-episode Lanterns is produced by HBO. And James Hawes will direct the first 2 episodes and also executive produce. We have our man, Stewart. We have our
Marcelino
man.
roasting the actor's face.
I'm sure Aaron Pierre is a good actor, but his face looks a little fake. I mean, hey,
Most
man, you
definitely.
know, you hating on somebody's looks, man. Come on, Marcelino.
Uh,
But yeah, we have our John Stewart here, man. We have our John Stewart here. You know, I am outside of look, I am curious outside of Stephen James and Aaron Pierre. You know, I am curious as to who else was on the short list of actors on here. Like, I feel like we tend to get like top 5 names, you know, when it comes to a short list, maybe 3, maybe 4. But the fact that this time we only got 2 names, I'm hoping that within the next week or 2, hopefully insider source Jeff Snyder, hopefully he will open up his bag in regards to what he knows about lanterns and reveal maybe who else was scheduled to be in here. But we do have some really great fan art pieces. I thought I wanted to highlight here of Aaron Pierre as Green Lantern. This one, I believe, somebody just kind of put his face. I believe this was the image from the Zack Snyder Green Lantern, and they replaced his face with Aaron Pierre, which I think he looks great in that image. And then this is another one that I saw as well of him constructing some things with his willpower here also.
kind of looks like they de-aged him by like 12 years.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because my thing is like they did talk about Stewart in the run up to this that they were looking for a young John Stewart to play the rookie. How old is Aaron Pierre? Can you look up Aaron Pierre's
Oh,
age? Have you looked that up already?
yeah, let me if I'm looking at him, it looks like probably mid-20s. Let's find out.
I mean, he's definitely a mature looking dude for sure. I mean, we talked about it from the Rebel Ridge clip that we had seen, like how intimidating this dude certainly is.
Oh, exactly 30 years old.
Oh wow, he's 30. Okay. I thought that they might have gone maybe just a little bit younger than that. I wonder if he just turned 30. I wonder how old Kyle Chandler is. I think he's like 50 something, right? I think he's like in his 50s. So I am fascinated by the decision in regards to the age range and whatnot. But you hear this news, Stuart. Aaron Pierre now officially cast as John Stewart. I think this is probably. Is it crazy to say that outside of? Well, it might be kind of crazy to say that. I feel like John Stewart's casting is probably one of the more anticipated castings. Would you say so?
I would, yeah. I was kind of more curious about him than Hal Jordan, only because we've already gotten Hal Jordan. And then when they mentioned later on that he was going to be kind of the played by an older, like more bigger actor, I think that's where I kind of lost interest in the casting there, only because like I kind of figured whoever they get is undoubtedly going to do a good job because they're going for A-listers. But I think that what intrigued me with John Stewart was finding out that they were looking for someone relatively young and new. So I think that's why for me personally, I was definitely more intrigued with the John Stewart casting. I'm not sure how like the internet as a whole felt though.
How are you feeling about the casting choice here? I mean we had kind of given our own fan castings as to who we would certainly like, but I do think we were very aware of Aaron Pierre's name being thrown out there. So now that we see the end result, how are you feeling about it, Stuart?
So if I remember correctly, it was between Aaron Pierre and who was the other actor who was between last
Stephen
week?
James?
Stephen James. Yeah. So I remember I didn't know anything about either of them, but I think I went with Aaron Pierre as my pick between the two of them, specifically because his body, like, build is just like what you would expect from a John Stewart like character. Because if I'm not mistaken, John Stewart was a character who did serve in the military, and this guy has the body that looks like, if he said that he served in the military, I would totally believe it.
Yeah, I would believe it. I would believe it too.
So I think this is I think just from the looks of it, he's going to do a great job. Just like looking at like it, just yeah, basically he has the body for John Stewart. But as for his acting performance, yeah, like I said, I haven't seen anything he's been in. I don't think. Although I have seen the first episode of Krypton, but it has been so long, I barely
Oh,
remember it. Um, So I'll have to check out Rebel Ridge at some point because that's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, so I think that'll be like my goal is to check that out, and then I can have like kind of a better thought on, or just a better idea in my head of how he might play the character.
Yeah, I definitely want to check out his work in Rebel Ridge for sure. It's definitely on my list of things to do. But overall, I'm excited for him, man. He actually did come out this week too, and he did give some thoughts on his casting in here. I did want to go ahead and highlight just his words also. This is from comicbook.com. Because he did break his silence about becoming DC's Jon Stewart. And this is what he had to say. He said, tremendously honored and abundantly grateful. A dream come true, Aaron Pierre wrote on Instagram following the news. He says, thank you all for the love and beautiful energy. Thank you for welcoming me to DC. Let's work. He also shared an image of Jon Stewart from the Justice League animated series along with one of his headshots. So yeah, I think he understands the gravitas that's kind of coming with this role, and in reality, I mean, this is our group of Green Lanterns now in the DCU. We've got Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, and Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart here. And this is a casting that has been, in fact, confirmed by James Gunn. James Gunn also did go out of his way to welcome Kyle Chandler to the DCU. So he is, in fact, confirming both casting announcements in here as well. He says, welcome to DC, Aaron Pierre. After a long and grueling series of auditions, I'm absolutely sure we found an incredible Jon Stewart. And I think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, look, there are plenty casting choices out there of people that I don't necessarily think look the part, but still do a great job. And if some people are concerned about, Aaron Pierre maybe not looking quite like Jon Stewart, maybe he's not dark enough, maybe his build or his jawline or his hairline isn't exactly like, I'm not going to personally nitpick certain things like that, because for me, if there's anything that I've kind of learned over time, it's the idea that we may have an idea as to who we want in one particular role, but it may not necessarily be what's being asked of these actors when it comes to portraying these characters. James Gunn may have just a completely different feel for what he wants to go, who he wants to have as Jon Stewart. And when you're dealing with the series like Lanterns, that's set to be a very gritty and sort of darker, true detective vibe type series. Maybe the idea of Aaron Pierre in his performance and how he auditioned for the role of Jon Stewart is really what separated him from Stephen James or anybody else kind of in that world. I think if he can embody the personality traits, if he can embody solely like what makes Jon Stewart tick, what helps him get up at night, type of thing. If Aaron Pierre can really tap into that and bring the Jon Stewart that we know personality wise from the comic books to the big screen, I think that's really what you want, is somebody that can capture that character and certainly bring him to life. And so for me, I don't know. Are they going to ask Aaron Pierre, hey, bro, can you shave that beard and mustache, to kind of fit Jon Stewart a little bit better? They may have him go through some rigorous military training to go ahead and get ready for this role also, right? Like there's an energy, there's a vibe, there's an attitude, there's a personality that all these actors kind of bring to the role. And I think just based off of the way that he holds himself, I mean, just the way that he talks about playing the role of Jon Stewart, it just sounds like a very refined, I don't want to say a refined gentleman, but a very mature minded sort of good head on your shoulders type of guy that understands the situation that he finds himself in. And the way that he responds to it almost makes me feel like he's very much like this militaristic sort of military man that's been brought up by his mom and dad to be like, yes sir, no ma'am, you know what I'm saying? Like there is something about Aaron Pierre, I think, as an individual that maybe embodies Jon Stewart extremely well. And so, while I'm sure that there are probably other actors that might look more like a Jon Stewart, they may not have brought necessarily the acting chops or the qualities of Jon Stewart to the audition that James Gunn himself was certainly looking for. And so, whatever Aaron Pierre did in that audition certainly impressed people. I'm sure he probably looked great in the costume. This clearly probably means him and Kyle Chandler have a really unique and kind of on-screen chemistry that's certainly popular. Like there's so much that goes into the audition for somebody and picking up somebody and casting somebody, and then just, hey, does he look like him? And so at the end of the day, his color of being not dark enough, to me, doesn't matter. If anything, the guy's a black dude. And for me, I'm more than happy. As a black man, thank you, Aaron Pierre, for representing us on the big screen. So I'll certainly thank him for that. And at the end of the day, clearly he had what James Gunn was certainly looking for when it comes to this role. So I'm excited, man. I really am. This looks fun to me. I'm eager to kind of see just what the chemistry between Kyle along with Aaron is going to be on screen. And I think, if anything, I think that's probably one of the bigger things that I'm really kind of looking forward to when it comes to this show. Because if anything, Stewart, Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre just seem like two completely different individuals. And I'm fascinated to see not only how they are going to tackle their characters as Hal and John, but how are they going to handle those interactions? I think for me, that's really what I'm looking forward to most when it comes to this series.
Yeah, I always love the kind of I want to say Training Day, but I also know how that movie ends, so probably not the best example, but you know what I mean? Like, kind of like when you have like the buddy cop movie where you have the old mentor who's like grumpy, trying to teach the up and coming new person in training. Although, like, yeah, I have kind of mentioned like before, if they go that direction, it will be kind of weird because in the comic books, like Jon Stewart was definitely kind of the more serious out of the two. But yeah, I can kind of see them going with a slightly more like more lighthearted version of the character, just because this is his first time as the Green Lantern. And you could say that for Hal Jordan, the reason he's not as jokey as he is in the comic books is probably just because he's seen a lot, because he's been in Green Lantern for a while. So overall, I'm very curious to see what the chemistry is going to be like you said. And I'm curious, like, what traits from the comics they're going to bring in. And if they don't bring in all the traits, are they saving those for like later, things like that? But yeah, I'm overall very hyped for this series. I think with the budget it has going behind it, they're definitely, you're not gonna cast someone that you don't have a lot of faith in when you're putting this much money in a TV show. So I have no doubt he's probably going to absolutely nail the role. Both of them will. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. If anything, it does seem odd that some of the things that we did read, when you bring up like the personality traits that they want for each of these characters, it does feel like it's a little bit backwards, in the sense that they wanted Hal Jordan to sort of be the reluctant veteran member that's got to kind of teach the rookie. Like when I view Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart, you did mention the idea that you probably expect somebody a little bit more serious, with Hal Jordan being sort of like the jokey one. I kind of hope that there are elements to that. Like there's a part of, just with Aaron Pierre's demeanor, the idea of him being Jon Stewart. Like if I'm Hal Jordan, I would probably go up to John and be like, "Hey, brother, can you crack a smile for me, please? Like, can you be a little bit more lighthearted type of mentality with Jon Stewart, trying to get feel a little bit more comfortable around Hal, get a little bit more comfortable with his role as a part of the Green Lantern sort of thing, instead of like, I can see Aaron Pierre's energy as Jon Stewart in the sense of like, I want to take what I learned from my military ways and like impress compress as much as I can, and maybe he like is doing too much or is taking things a little bit too seriously. And you have somebody like a Hal Jordan played by Kyle Chandler that's like, hey, but like just calm down a little bit. You're taking this way too serious. Like that's how I personally would view or expect it. But yeah, I don't know what they're asking for both of these characters truly until we actually get to the show itself. So there are some dynamics that I am really fascinated to see how it's going to work out. And remember, Stewart, this Aaron Pierre here as John Stewart, people are expecting him to be the Green Lantern sort of the DCU going forward, as far as like the movie Green Lantern in an upcoming maybe Justice League type of movie itself. So they definitely are expecting really big things from Aaron Pierre here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Makes me kind of wonder too if we're going to get like two different Flashes, like a Barry Allen who's kind of in that same age range as Kyle, and then Wally West is probably more in the same age range as Aaron.
That's an interesting point, right? I mean, this is our first time in this DCU world seeing that, hey, there are multiple versions of the same character out there, right? Multiple Green Lanterns. Is that a case with other characters like a Flash or a Wonder Girl? Like how many Wonder Girls are out there also? But the idea of a Barry Allen and a Wally West, is there a Jay Garrick Flash out there too, right? Like that's a good question. I am kind of curious to see where all these characters are, if they are even in the DCU. So we'll see. But guys, look, let us know. Aaron Pierre as John Stewart, Green Lantern. Was this your fan cast? Did you have other people in mind that you personally would have liked to have seen the role? Again, our fan casting could be completely different from what it is that James Gunn is certainly looking for in regards to a John Stewart when it comes to a Lantern series or even the bigger movies going forward. Are you cool with the idea of Aaron Pierre fitting that bill for John Stewart? And what do you expect from Aaron Pierre as John Stewart, certainly going forward? Let us know your thoughts in regards to the big casting announcement we got this week in the comment section box below. But I'm just really glad, Stuart, that this series is certainly moving forward. Like I feel like, knock on wood, things are moving relatively well for James Gunn and his productions for his shows. It seems as though like whatever he is doing is definitely working in the sense of smooth sailing as of right now, with Supergirl and Lantern set to both go into production this upcoming January here. How have you liked what James Gunn has done so far from a casting perspective, from just getting his things in order before filming starts?
I love it for several reasons. One of them being that it's not just trying to copy and paste something that's already been done before. He's creating a cinematic universe, which, yes, that's been done before, but the way he's going about it, it definitely looks like he's taking his own unique approach. I like how he's not just relying on the A-tier superheroes that we all know, but also willing to kind of mix in some of the lesser known characters to the mainstream audience. And yeah, just and I also love how he's going about with casting and getting these movies started. I hope it's something that he kind of keeps doing like over time. And I think he will, as long as like the movies are successful and you don't have micromanaging from David Zaslav. I think that it's great that he's not announcing these actors before a script is even done, that he's waiting until like production is ready to go before making any really big announcements. And then so far the casting, even though we haven't gotten to see how it's all going to look, so far the casting for all the characters we've seen so far, I think look like they're going to do a great job.
Yeah, I think if anything, I would like other studios to really take note in regards to how James Gunn is handling everything. I do think he's got a lot of great help with the idea of Peter Safran being on the opposite side of things, that really handles the business and finances, and they just really allow James Gunn to work on the creative side. But he's also got that smart mind in the sense of making sure that all the scripts are completed before anything even kind of moves forward. And I think that has really helped him out tremendously. So we'll see. We'll see what else goes into production relatively soon. We expect more information from James Gunn here at New York City Comic Con this weekend. So we'll definitely keep you guys posted. But Lanterns is coming together rather well.
Hope
Oh,
we
go
get a
ahead.
teaser for Superman during Comic-Con.
I don't know why I've been hearing a bunch of stuff like that. Somebody did mention the idea of maybe a trailer dropping or like some sort of first look. Have you heard anything, Stuart? Because I feel like that's not the first time that I've heard it. Because I personally would not expect it, just based off of the movie not being ready until July. But you're not the first person that I've heard hoping that we get some sort of teaser in this weekend.
The only thing I know for sure is someone on Twitter asked James Gunn if we're going to get a trailer before the end of the year, and James Gunn replied with the emoji.
Interesting. The fact that he even replied, I think, says something. So we'll see. Maybe if you're in New York at the Comic-Con, maybe you'll get a sneak peek. But I have been hearing great things from people that have had the opportunity to see the dailies and the movie kind of being cut and come together. So people are really, really impressed with what they got. So we'll see. We'll see. Speaking of Superman, Stewart, that is in fact our next topic, because while James Gunn is getting ready or has wrapped filming on his Superman movie, now that it is currently in post-production, there is another Superman out there that is just flying to your TV screens this week, and that is in fact Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois is in fact back for its final season. The first episode, I believe, dropped this week, if I'm not mistaken. We did have ourselves a pretty cool poster for the final season of Superman and Lois as well. I believe the date on here says October 17th, but they did in fact move the season premiere to this past week, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like this past Monday or Tuesday, I think was in fact a premiere for the final season of Superman and Lois. Not sure if you guys have had the opportunity to check it out. Did you check it out, Stuart?
I did, and
What'd you think of it?
oh boy, needed some tissues for that one.
Oh, really? And that emotional, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to check it out as of yet, but the reason why Superman and Lois is in the news now that we have ourselves the season finale that's officially kicked off, executive producers are talking about the idea that they plan on honoring the Arrowverse in their season finale, Stuart, or in their series finale. This comes to us from Entertainment Weekly. Superman and Lois star and producers say series finale will honor the end of the Arrowverse. It says Superman and Lois made it clear in season 2 finale that it's no longer set in the Arrowverse, but the showrunners and star say the series finale will still honor the CW shared universe of DC Comics dramas in its own way, is what they say. The short and final season kicks off Monday with a 2-hour premiere, and after the next 8 episodes air, the CW will no longer have any superhero shows on the air. That's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow. It's truly the end of an era that began 12 years ago when Arrow debuted on the network, leading to The Flash, Supergirl, Legends, Black Lightning, and Batwoman, as well as web series from Vixen and the Freedom Fighters, not to mention the many big budget multi-episode crossovers. Superman and Lois began in the Arrowverse, since stars Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tulloch first appeared as Superman and Lois in those crossover episodes. But at the end of season 2, the series finally officially separated itself from the shared TV universe, so the Arrowverse officially concluded with The Flash last year. This is what they say. It says, inherently, there's so many pressures you feel with the TV show. Just writing the script was pressure, then producing it. And the second that the show began, it's about Superman and Lois. So there's a responsibility that comes with that too, showrunner Todd Helbing tells Entertainment Weekly. With the Arrowverse, I've had 10 years of working in these shows and these worlds, and you want to do it justice, but you have to separate yourself from those feelings, or you are not going to leave your house because it will be overwhelming. While Helmbig and fellow showrunner Brent Fletcher still felt somewhat of a responsibility to the Arrowverse, they didn't make it a priority while crafting the end of Superman and Lois. They say the best way that we could approach it was just to do the best version of our show. As for Easter eggs, there's the idealistic version. In a comic book, you'd have all these characters at your disposal so you can have whatever you want. But when you're talking about schedules and money and budgets, it would be awesome to have the Flash star in this, but it's just not feasible. There are questions like that that come up, and then there's the reality that hits you. And so ultimately, as we discussed in the room, we can just do what we can do. And I think the best way to honor what has been done for 10 years was to hopefully have the audience watch it and then feel satisfied. That's also how Hawkler approached his final performance as Superman and Clark Kent this season. He says it's been crazy for years. I mean, 8 years of the character before with this show in particular. Um, he says that he was only thinking a little bit about his time in the Arrowverse while ending Superman and Lois, but I wouldn't necessarily say it felt like it was saying goodbye to all of that. In a weird way, when we started the show, it was very clear that it was going to be different from what we had been doing on the Arrowverse shows. So I was able to leave that behind from the beginning. When it was coming to an end, it was really just about this and its totality in the last 4 years, just because it was such a separate thing in so many ways. So Stuart, one of the things that as I'm reading this article further, the idea of honoring the Arrowverse, it feels very much like their idea of honoring the Arrowverse is to just do the show. I mean, at least that's the vibes that I'm getting from it. It doesn't feel like they're really kind of going out of their way to really honor the Arrowverse, more so than, hey, thanks Arrowverse for getting us here, but we're our own show now, so we can't really focus on that. So our best way to honor it is just to do the show. Am I tripping right now?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking like during the article. I'm so glad you said it, because I was gonna say it's like, we're gonna honor you by doing what we're already doing. I can't think of any better way to like really show tribute to the Arrowverse than to just stick with what we're already doing.
Wow, that's hilarious. This is the Arrowverse crossover. Merge all the show's universe into one Earth. The finale declared that Superman and Lois' Superman is the only hero on this Earth means, well, just let hell being explained. He says, I don't know if I would specifically define it as not in the Arrowverse per se. Maybe it's not that binary. It's more that the events in our show are not taking place on the same Earth as the current Arrowverse. I think that's what he said after the Crisis on Infinite Earths sort of thing. So yeah, Stuart, it feels very much like there's really no honoring going on at all here.
Yeah.
So how will they honor the end of the Arrowverse? And the answer to that question, Stuart, is just doing the show. Look, let me just say, I don't I don't I'm glad that the article points out that, look, technically the Arrowverse ended with The Flash last year or the year before that. So should Superman and Lois like do something? Like, is there a requirement for them? I can see why some people would certainly feel like it's not. But there is a little bit of an element of a farewell that I would certainly like to see. I mean, I get the idea that the show itself is kind of set in its own world, that it's really separated itself. But these characters wouldn't have become as popular as they were or have gotten the spin-off or the series that they had it certainly not been for the Arrowverse. So I don't know what responsibilities the showrunner has. Like, I think for me, what I think is a little bit of astounding is the idea that Todd Helbing, who literally was part of the Arrowverse for the past 10 years, like the article said, doesn't feel this. I don't want to say he doesn't feel this need, but he mentions, hey, we already have enough pressure of trying to just finish this final season, sort of thing. So I get the idea that he's got so much on his plate. But for somebody that saw the trajectory of which the Arrowverse was going, had a part to do with it, had a part with introducing Superman and Lois into the Arrowverse, and had a part to do with separating these characters from the Arrowverse, I would think, like, can we get a little bit of a montage towards the end of the show? Even if it's like we can't necessarily bring back these characters. We can't get a Grant Gustin to come back and do a role or Easter egg or a quick cameo. There would be, like, for me, I personally would love like a really great sort of post-credit scene or mid-credit scene of just a montage of big Arrowverse moments, or just some brief clips of characters, or whatever the case may be, with a great song to wrap up the Arrowverse. Let's give me something a little bit sentimental here.
It almost sounds like you're describing Deadpool and Wolverine's credit scenes.
Yes. Maybe have Tyler and Elizabeth, give a little PSA at the very end, like as actors instead of their characters, or something, like just a little sort of farewell to the years that CW has done. Look, I didn't see the season finale for The Flash. I don't know how far out of the way they went to honoring the Arrowverse, if they sort of did something similar to that. I don't necessarily know if I need like Avengers Endgame level where, I need the credits of like every big character to like give signatures at the end of Superman and Lois. I don't know if I need something like that, but a nice little montage of Arrowverse moments and a small little farewell, I think, would have gone a really long way, considering that this really will be the last sort of superhero show on the CW after 12 years, separated or not. I mean, they took us on a ride for years thinking, oh, this is all connected, and then just to flip it on us and say it's not. I really would have liked to have seen them go a little bit out of their way. That wouldn't have hurt their budget too much, if you ask me, in the sense of putting together a little montage and a little farewell. But I don't know. I feel some type of way, Stewart, even though they've taken their time to let us know, hey, we're not part of the Arrowverse anymore. Do you think that there's some, I don't want to say responsibility, but do you think that there's some level of, it's their duty to do something, or not really? I am kind of curious to know what you think.
Ah, man, that's hard to say because, like, on the one hand, yes, your job is to work on your own show, and especially when you've had your episodes count cut down to like only 10, and your budget cut majorly down. I can see why you wouldn't want to let a tribute to something that came before ruin like what's already going to be a difficult challenge in writing the script for the season. But yeah, I do think that because the Flash didn't really have a grand send-off for the Arrowverse as a whole, it was really just it was good send-off for the Flash, but it wasn't really a good Arrowverse send-off.
Mm.
I do think it would have been very appreciated if they had gone out of their way to do something to kind of like give us a good send-off for the Arrowverse. But I get that it would be really hard to write that into a script, especially for a season like this, where again you have all the budget cuts. But then again, like, with that all being said, though, if you're not able to do like a proper tribute, I don't understand why you even brought it up in your, article, or why you would bring that up in an interview to begin with, like, oh, we're gonna give a tribute to the Arrowverse in our own way, though. It's like, I kind of wish they just said nothing, and they just said, we're our own show, so we don't really have an obligation to do a tribute to the Arrowverse. Like, I kind of just wish they said that rather than trying to kind of say, oh, we'll do it in our own way, and that own way is just making the show like we usually do.
Yeah, it is odd. I am kind of curious as to who brought that up in their conversation, to make him even answer that question in the first place. But look, I'm sure Todd Helbing will certainly put his best effort to making sure that Superman and Lois season finale is successful. But I just think that there's definitely a lot more that DC television certainly could have done for the Arrowverse in regards to sort of saying its farewell. I don't want to say it put the CW on the map, but it definitely elevated the CW for sure. And I almost feel like there's like this behind the scenes Hollywood attitude of like not giving Arrowverse like the credit it deserves in the sense of producing some of the best DC content, next to the ups and downs of the DC uh extended universe that they tried to do under management for several years on the big screen. And so, I do wonder if they're just like ready to be done with the Arrowverse stuff. But it's just a shame based off of what the Arrowverse was capable of doing. That both showrunners, whether that be from The Flash or even Superman and Lois, aren't going above and beyond to do a proper sort of send off. They, CW literally should have like an hour-long reunion show of the Arrowverse cast and saying farewell. Like I would love a reunion of the Arrowverse for like one final time.
I wanted them to do like a 10-year anniversary, but like, yeah, nothing happened from that. I think it was like the Flash's last season was when the 10-year mark hit, and yeah, they did absolutely nothing, which is a shame.
Maybe that's a question I should ask them if they've ever been approached to do a reunion special with the entire Arrowverse for a proper send off for what they were able to do. I would be kind of curious if anything like that was ever pitched to them. But yeah, so let us know your guys' thoughts. Are you looking forward to the finale for Superman and Lois? What have you thought so far, Stewart, about the first episode?
Oh my gosh, first 2 episodes are incredible. It definitely gave me a huge teary eye from, especially like kind of the very end of the first episode of season 4, because yeah, they're basically committing to the death of Superman storyline. And even though Todd Helbing is behind, the showrunner, surprisingly, this does last for more than 1 episode. Because if I don't know if you remember, but back when he did, because he came on to the Flash during season 3, which is when they set up Flashpoint, and that lasted like 1 episode before everything went back to normal. So I'm glad they are not doing that with Superman and Lois. 2 episodes in, they introduce a MacGuffin that can revive Superman. That MacGuffin gets completely destroyed. So yeah, we're still not sure how Superman is coming back or when he's coming back, and I love that. I love not knowing. And then with the secondary characters too, I think especially with Sam Lane, I won't spoil what happens, but the entire time I didn't know if he was going to make it or not. And it was mostly just because I know that he's no longer a series regular, and that's kind of how it is with a lot of the secondary characters. No one's a series regular, which means everyone can die at any moment in the show. So it makes it much more intense. And also, yeah, like, so it's funny. I think that like Michael Kurtlis, or the guy playing Lex Luthor,
or something like
Cutlass,
that.
yeah. So Michael Cutlass and Jesse Eisenberg are like the most opposite in the way they go about their versions of Lex Luthor's. I would say neither of them are particularly what I would have in mind when I think Lex Luthor, but at least with Michael, I will say he is intimidating, which is something that I always love in the Lex Luthor. And it's hard to say whether or not he's smart, because like he's confident and some of his plans do end up working, but I mentioned this in my review for the season finale of season 3, it kind of felt like it was bad writing that his plan worked and less of him being smart. So we'll have to see how they continue to write his character going forward. He's definitely kind of that character where everyone's like, I don't understand what you're planning with this, and he's like, trust me, it's all going to work. But we still haven't seen what that overall plan is going to be, at least not quite yet. So so far, enjoying it, really enjoying it.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that, man. We actually also have a casting announcement for Superman and Lois. Even though they are kind of tight on budget, I wonder if this was like a combo they managed to score. Elizabeth Henstridge to appear in key role in Superman and Lois's final season. It says Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. star Elizabeth Henstridge, who directed an episode of Superman and Lois in both seasons 2 and 3, will return to the series later this fall to play a pivotal role in the show's final season. Henstridge, who also direct the 5th episode, will who will also direct the 5th episode of the 10-episode season, has been tapped to play Lex Luthor's daughter, who has yet doesn't have a name. In the new season, Lex is fixated on reuniting with his daughter, who left in her teens when Lex was convicted of murder and went to jail. Henstring will play the role, although it's not clear yet on how many episodes in which she will appear or how big a role she will play in this season beyond the story role that her existence and disappearance plays. She says, I worked with her on Agents and Shield, and she's unbelievable. Says the executive producer. She's an unbelievable actress and just the greatest person to work with. She's so nice and awesome at what she does. Our crew loves her. She loves our crew. We built it for her. She was the only person we ever went to with it. So even though they've talked about having a tapped budget here, not really reprising many people's roles, I do wonder if they got sort of that director discount price here for Elizabeth Henstridge. Like, hey, direct an episode for us. We'll pay you for directing. Do you mind having this little bit of a role also? Because it doesn't say that it's a huge pivotal role all season, but it is clearly an important one, and she's going to be playing Lex Luthor's daughter. I don't know how big of a role that it certainly is, but I got to assume they probably saved some money with Henstridge just because of the fact that she was directing a couple of episodes for them in the past and one this season. But what do you think about the her joining, Stewart?
Oh yeah, I love her in Agents of Shield, and
Yeah, she's great.
yeah, they've definitely been kind of building up her appearance with Lex Luthor in particular. Very pissed that he hasn't seen her in like years, and of course, very much blames Lois Lane for that. So yeah, I look forward to seeing that. I can see with how Lex Luthor is very manipulative in the comic books, I could definitely see him trying to win her over and claim that Superman was the villain the whole time or something like that. But yeah, I can't wait to see what she brings to that role.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to her. I was a big fan of hers too from Agents of Shield, so I'm glad to see that she's doing more directing. I can't remember if she got her directorial debut doing an episode of Agents of Shield or where she started, but I think that's pretty cool that she's exploring that path for herself as well.
I also have a theory of who's going to be playing who later on in the season. So we know that Tom Cavanaugh is going to be in Superman and Lois season 4. The showrunners have confirmed he is not reprising his role as Harrison Wells or the Reverse Flash. They said he's going to be playing a completely new character who is from the Superman comic books. And in episode 2, I want to say it was, they name drop Milton and referred to him as a brainiac. And they also had said in a previous interview that they were going to be name dropping this character that Tom Cavanaugh is playing early on. So I am like 99% sure now that Tom Cavanaugh is going to be Brainiac in Superman and Lois season 4.
That would be badass, man. I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Or what if he is Brainiac, and we come to find out Brainiac has been Wells this whole time.
And that's how they pay tribute to the Arrowverse. You know what? If that's what happens, I take back everything I say. They were planning to pay tribute in their own way, and it did work.
This is Kang the Conqueror all over again, my guy. This is Tom Cavanaugh doing the best Council of Wells who turn out to be Brainiac the entire time. That'd be bananas.
We'll Brainiac all along.
We'll see how that turns out, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if that's true or not, Stuart. But we'll come to find out. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the final season of Superman and Lois. What would you guys like to see from it? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stu, we will move on to our next topic. We'll keep it in the realm of the DC, for you guys. But we're kind of going back to the past a little bit here, Stu. Do you remember there was once a time? There was once a time when we had a thing called the DC Extended Universe. You remember that when they tried to do a bunch of DC movies and they would give us title after title of all these movies that they really wanted to do? We never got around to any of them. Well, one of those films was supposed to be Wonder Woman 3. After Wonder Woman 1984 didn't necessarily do too well box office wise, the film itself definitely had to deal with a lot of the pandemic issues. I can't remember if this was one of the movies that came out theatrically and on streaming at the same time or not. It was a really wonky release, if I'm not mistaken, for Wonder Woman 1984. Regardless, definitely got mixed vibes, mixed reviews. And I think this might have been all during the time in which we were kind of expecting a merger or more things to certainly happen when it comes to Warner Brothers. So the future of the DCEU was certainly uncertain. But one of the characters that seemingly was extremely popular during that time was definitely Wonder Woman. The first Wonder Woman film did I don't think it did $1 billion, but it definitely did a ton at the box office, to certainly say the least. Wonder Woman 2 or Wonder Woman 1984 came in a little bit underwhelming for some people, and it definitely put into limbo where Wonder Woman was going to go as a character for a potential sequel. Were we ever going to get a Wonder Woman 3? And then come James Gunn and Peter Safran, who have plans of their own, Stewart. And while they released their Chapter 1 God and Monsters, one of the things missing from their list was a Wonder Woman movie, despite the idea that there is a Paradise Lost television series that's supposed to go ahead and drop. But does that mean Diana is going to be in there? Does that mean that Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman's going to be in there? It doesn't necessarily seem like it, Stuart. And so where is Wonder Woman really has been one of the bigger questions here recently. And this past week, Wonder Woman star Connie Nielsen, who you guys will recall from the first two Wonder Woman movies, spoke out this week with the website Den of Geek, saying that it's crazy that our Wonder Woman 3 with Gal Gadot isn't happening. It seems as though, Stewart, she's still holding on to the cancellation of Wonder Woman 3 and certainly feels some type of way about it. So let's talk about this a little bit. Again, this comes to us from Den of Geek. Let's see what Connie Nielsen has to say. Connie Nielsen thinks it's crazy Wonder Woman 3 with Gal Gadot isn't happening. I believe you get to see Connie Nielsen next in Gladiator 2, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely look forward to her seeing her there. She's a great actress, to certainly say the least. Let's see here. They talk about the extended universe might survive the reboot to fight another day. And of all the characters from the prior sequence of films, it was widely believed that Wonder Woman, a beloved fan favorite played by Gal Gadot, was perhaps the only major member of Justice League that would make the cut. I was definitely under that impression for quite some time in believing that Gal Gadot and James Gunn were going to work together again to go ahead and have her reprise her role, despite James Gunn really wanting to reestablish the DCU. So I was definitely one of those people that believed we would certainly have more adventures of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. It was not, however, meant to,
especially because like Gal Gadot herself seemed to really hype it up like it was happening.
Yeah, she said her and David, or her and James and Peter Safran had conversations and everything. So it definitely seemed as though they initially had plans for her, but nothing's been announced yet. Although the development work on Wonder Woman 3 had started under the previous regime, it was reported in December 2022 that a third film starring Gadot would not move forward. This was after Patty Jenkins had submitted her treatment for the project, which was said to not fit in with plans for the new DC universe that Gunn and Safran unveiled a short time later, plans that included a prequel TV series about the Amazons set on Themyscira called Paradise Lost. At the same time, Gadot's Diana and some of her supporting Amazon characters like Queen Hippolyta remained popular among fans. To Connie Nielsen, who played Hippolyta in both films as well as in Justice League, the outright abandonment of one of the few acknowledged bright spots of the troubled Snyderverse era has been frustrating, as it is baffling. This is what she says. She says, "I think it's crazy. I mean, frankly, I don't understand it." Nielsen tells us while sitting down to discuss another one of her beloved roles, the Roman noble Lucia, who will be returning in Gladiator 2. She says Wonder Woman made $800 million just in the movie theaters, and it has an enormous and passionate fan base. these are spectacular films, and there's just no reason I can't understand whatsoever for not investing in that. If I were a business person, I would say that's money on the table. It's right there. Plus, every time we've done it, it was with budgets that were way smaller than any of the other DC budgets. Wonder Woman was a groundbreaking film in many ways. It was the first major superhero movie with the woman in the lead role, and it introduced an entire civilization of powerful, advanced women warriors in the Amazons. In the Amazons and their hidden kingdom of the Mascara, what Nielsen describes as insane, cool, gorgeous universe that she loved being a part of. She says, "I love that island, those costumes, those characters, the values that those Amazons represented. It was fantastic. I built that character off real historical and anthropology books on the Amazons. There's now real DNA evidence that these Amazons really did exist, that they were famous female warriors. And we now know that burial mounds that were those warriors were buried. They just assumed it was a man because of who the person was buried with. And now they realize, oh no, DNA analysis shows that they were women." She says, "It's a pity. I really hope that they change their minds and that they realize this is crazy. This is $1 billion that is laying on the table. Not claiming those fans and making them happy is something I just don't really understand at all." So yeah, Connie Nielsen, very vocal here, Stewart, and feeling some type of way about the idea that Warner Brothers really let what she sees to be $1 billion franchise kind of go by the wayside here. I don't know how much Wonder Woman 1984 made, but I do know Wonder Woman made the first one made it like 700, $800 million. So she's definitely not lying there. But the trajectory after 1984, again, certainly mixed reviews in regards to critics and audiences on certainly how they felt. How do you feel about what Connie Nielsen is saying here? I mean, granted, Stuart, we can't go backwards, right? James Gunn and Peter Safran certainly have their world that they're going to create. How do you think Connie Nielsen should handle this? This feels like this is something that's kind of passed us by, but she highly believes Wonder Woman has its fans. Why aren't we doing something with her? What do you think about what she has to say?
Um, well, okay, so before I say that, I do want to say that, yeah, so Wonder Woman 2 didn't do good at all, but that wasn't a knock on the movie's quality. That was because it was released. My gosh, I think that was like one of the earliest movies to be released during the pandemic. So it was a simultaneous release of theaters and HBO Max. In fact, I think I saw it on HBO Max when it came out. But as to what she is saying about the Wonder Woman movies, I first just want to say that I absolutely love her passion for the franchise and the fact that she actually seems to have really done a lot of research in her role and like actually looking into real history to see, how much small truths there might be to the, Themyscira Island and all that. Like, that's awesome. I absolutely love that passion. And I hope that, if James Gunn sees this interview, he doesn't see it as something petty and instead sees it as like, hey, this is a woman that knows what she's talking about. Maybe we should bring her on board, whether it is to play a similar role in the DCU going forward, or if it's to have her like come into direct or write something revolving around the character of Wonder Woman. I that's the thing, is that what I like about what she said is that, she expressed like her concerns and how, like, if she was in their shoes, she would have done something different. But it didn't seem to come from a place of hatred, just like kind of confusion. And of course, being bummed, which totally makes sense. As for whether or not I agree with her personally, given that they, with the exception of a couple of properties from the DCEU that will be carrying forward to the DCU, I don't think James Gunn really has any interest in backtracking and going with characters that had already been established in a previous world, and instead really wants to focus on this new world. So I get why he's doing it that way. and but I can also see why she would kind of not be exactly super happy with that idea. So for me, I'm kind of more on James Gunn's side, as I think that if you're going to reboot, you should really commit to it and recast like everyone. But at the same time, I can see why for her, especially when you're part of a trilogy that hasn't been completed, you know, you're in that annoying like second part and we don't get to see how everything wraps up in a nice neat bow. I can definitely see why that would definitely be kind of heartbreaking too. But yeah, like I said, you know, I don't think it came from a place of hate. I can definitely see why she you know, is upset that, you know, they're not finishing Wonder Woman, and why she sees it being a big money maker. I mean, I would say this, if they weren't rebooting the universe, I would 100% agree with her that Wonder Woman 3 would be a huge money maker for them. Even though Wonder Woman 2 didn't get the positive reception that the first one had, I do think enough people would have gone to give the third one a chance. And I think that as long as they had a solid movie going on, it definitely could have made a lot of money in the box office. But so yeah, overall, like what she's saying, I don't necessarily agree, especially with the direction that James Gunn is going with her. But that passion, just I think she would be a great addition to the DCU in some way, shape, or form. And I hope she's interested in coming back to it. And I hope James Gunn is interested in working with her.
Yeah, I think you make a good point in the sense of like, especially if I'm her and I've been a part of these two big films, and they canceled the idea of a trilogy, I probably would be pretty bummed and kind of upset, or at least in the, like just surprised in the sense that they decided not to explore that further for sure. Like I would feel like as me as an actor playing a character, like my character's role is a little bit sort of unfinished in regards to where they left her off at. So I can definitely understand maybe some of her frustrations that she's experiencing here, you know. But I would agree with you, Stuart, in the sense that I think for me, if there's any takeaway that I have from this article, is that, man, you know, Connie Nielsen is definitely invested in this character. Like, I do love the fact that she loved this role and this world, and the fact that she literally went to do real life research on the Amazons and to learn their impact so that she can so that she could be better about portraying them, sort of thing. I think just shows just how professional she certainly is as an actress, and why she's so great in her roles that she portrays, because she really does put her all into it, and just the way that she expresses herself in here showcases that as well. You know, look, I am in agreement with her too, in the sense that they uh, if they had made a Wonder Woman 3, people would have gone out and seen the film. I mean, people did love the Wonder Woman character in which they created. I mean, the fact that that movie made so much money, from the first one, I will agree that it definitely backtracked and kind of went the wrong trajectory for season 2. And had the pandemic not happen, I am kind of curious as to how much money it could have made. But I don't think Wonder Woman 1984 ruined the Wonder Woman character or franchise. For me, it would have been a sense of taking a step back, maybe finding a new writer, bringing somebody else fresh in. I mean, if you want to bring Patty Jenkins back to direct and maybe be a co-writer, that's fine. But I would have wanted to have brought in somebody else to write as well. So I do think that there are some changes that could have been made to have a successful Wonder Woman 3. But you know, I do think it's just really bad timing for the franchise too. You know, I do think that there are just business elements to what happened in the sense of the merger, new people kind of taking over and having just a different mindset. Not to say that they wouldn't want to work with Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman again, but they clearly have their own vision and story that they kind of want to tell. So I don't fault James Gunn and Peter Safran for why we're not getting ourselves a Wonder Woman 3. It's just, to me, at the end of the day, it's just business. And so there is a part of me that can understand her frustrations as well. I do think had uh, the DCEU in its own sense not stepped over its own feet, you know, not tripped over itself, made better business decisions, then maybe we would have gotten a Wonder Woman 3. But based off of where we're at right now, I still think James Gunn has plans for a Wonder Woman. I just don't necessarily know if it's in the time span that some people would certainly like to see it. That, you know, there's a part of me that when it comes to Paradise Lost, I do think that, whether or not Connie Nielsen returns as Hippolyta, I expect Hippolyta to certainly have a significant role in something like a Paradise Lost. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's sort of an origin story for Diana. And then after Paradise Lost, maybe we do get ourselves a Wonder Woman movie in some capacity or another. So, I think James Gunn is smart enough to know Wonder Woman is a moneymaker for us. It proved to be a moneymaker in the past. We are going to do something in our own time. So yeah, I think it really just comes down to the timing of it all. So, again, I don't think Connie Nielsen is wrong at all in this aspect, Stewart. I mean, I do think that she's got some great points here. I do think that they definitely did leave money on the table, but with the trajectory of where the entirety of the DCEU was certainly going at the time, I would beg to say Wonder Woman was like the one of the only successful aspects of it, with the exception of maybe the first Aquaman movie. So I do think people would have definitely have come out to see more Wonder Woman had they decided to do it, but that unfortunately just was not in the cards at the time. So I definitely appreciate Connie Nielsen's passion for it, but I would agree with you. It doesn't sound like it's a resentment towards James Gunn or Peter Safran or anything like that. Just kind of a confusion in the sense of not understanding why they never pulled the trigger a little bit sooner. But to each their own. But I do think we eventually will get ourselves a Wonder Woman for sure.
Yeah. James Gunn himself did say that the trio, which always refers to Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, would be the main focus of the DCU. So undoubtedly we'll get Wonder Woman. I'm not sure why James Gunn hasn't announced when she'll appear, but I assume it might be because he wants to surprise everyone. But undoubtedly we will be getting Wonder Woman soon.
Marcelino says, regardless of the flaws of 1984, I would have been open to the third Wonder Woman. I would want it to take place in the present and introduce a Wonder Girl. Why did Patty do that? Or why didn't Patty do that in 1984? I think her plan was to, by the time she got to a third film, I was under the impression the third film would then be in a present day. I wasn't expecting a Wonder Woman 3 to be another period piece. So I do think that what you were asking for, Marcelino, might have been introduced in a third film. And I think they were trying to go more decades or bigger, just jumps in time compared to the first Wonder Woman jump to the 80s in the second one, and then a present day jump to Wonder Woman 3. Whether or not she would have introduced Wonder Girl, that I definitely don't know, but I do think something more present day was certainly in store for Wonder Woman 3 as far as I can tell. But you know what, Stuart, you did mention something about the idea of how is James Gunn going to introduce her? I don't know. Do I have my comic book? I don't think I have my comic book here with me. Actually, hold on one moment. Oh yeah. I think I can't remember if we talked about this when they first announced Paradise Lost. But for those of you who aren't familiar, George Perez had an incredible Wonder Woman run back in the 80s. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is an omnibus. I don't know how many issues from George Perez's run on Wonder Woman are solely in here. But the first issue alone of Wonder Woman's run was pretty much like all Amazonian story. It gave you sort of a great prologue into Themyscira and the world of the Amazons. It's a great breakdown about like the men that the Amazons had to kind of separate themselves from, how they were enslaved at one point in time, right? So it's a really great sort of a prequel, if you will, to the world of Wonder Woman. And I think it's the first issue that might end with the like the birth of Diana, Hippolyta having birth, the gods of Themyscira, the goddesses of Themyscira praying to the gods, having them send sort of like the spirit of Diana sort of into this child or this clay, and kind of molding Diana out of clay with this spirit kind of being attached to it. So literally the first issue of the Wonder Woman George Perez run is sort of like a prequel of Themyscira, the origin stories of the Amazonians, and how Diana is sort of birthed. And so there's a part of me that wonders if that's the influence that James Gunn is taking Paradise Lost, so that by the time that we get to whether or not Paradise Lost is going to be a limited series or if we're going to have several seasons of it, there's a part of me that wants to think that by the end of Paradise Lost, we get the birth of Diana at some point in time, and then we'll eventually get ourselves a Wonder Woman movie. But that's kind of how I am under the assumption that James Gunn might tackle sort of Paradise Lost and the reintroduction of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
So that's what I'm hoping for. So we'll see. But I definitely expect more Wonder Woman to definitely happen at some point in time. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. I mean, who knows? Maybe our Wonder Woman isn't gonna be Diana. Maybe we've got so many options that they can kind of go if they wanted to do. Was it Yara Flor and Wonder Girl if they wanted to do that? They got a couple other Wonder Girls that they can pull from. I think Diana and was it Infinite Frontier, I think, has a daughter, if I'm not mistaken too. So I think that's something that they can do if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think wasn't her daughter introduced relatively recently? Because I remember making a whole joke about that with how many Wonder Girls there are now. Because you
Yeah.
have the Donna Troy Wonder Girl, you got the Cassidy Wonder Girl, you have the Yara Flor Wonder Girl, and now you have Wonder Woman's daughter Wonder Girl. And hell, before all of
Yeah,
them, you
they've
had
got
young Wonder Woman as Wonder Girl, because the originally Wonder Girl was just supposed to be the young adventures of Wonder Woman until they wrote the Teen Titans comic book, and the person writing it didn't know that she was supposed to be a younger version of Wonder Woman, and that's why they ended up changing her name to Donna
oh.
Troy. So 5
Oh
technically.
wow, I didn't realize that. That's pretty funny. I did not notice that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um Billy, what's up, Billy? Says, hey, Adam and Stuart, what are your thoughts on the Agatha All Along episode 5 ending? I'll definitely answer that here in a second. Just as we wrap up. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts for Wonder Woman in the comment section box below. Stuart, did you check out Agatha All Along episode 5 yet?
I did.
Yeah, I just watched it last night. So I'm gonna try and do a review. If not today, then tomorrow. I still have 2 reviews for the Penguin to do this week as well. I didn't do a Penguin episode 3 review last week, so I need to catch up on episodes 3 and 4 this week. So I got 3 reviews coming to you guys sometime here within the next day or two, so look out for that. But I did have the opportunity to watch episode 5 a little bit. I kind of want to go back and watch it because I was kind of in and out of sleep late last night. But I guess they didn't give the kid a name yet, Stuart, but I think they're definitely hinting that this kid being who I think most people have been assuming that he is. Maybe I should put up a spoiler warning sign here for those of you who have not watched episode 5 yet. What were your impressions of it, Stuart?
Oh yeah, like I was not taken off by the reveal because I kind of saw that coming because of the spoilers in the marketing, because they released a pop figure that reveals who he is. But I was surprised of what happened immediately afterwards, and I'm curious if he did that on purpose or if basically the darkness, like the dark magic is just like taken over him, or what's going on there. But yeah, that was a big WTF moment for me. Was that like very last moment?
Yeah, it was definitely a big moment for me too. I'm gonna have to rewatch it also, because yeah, I was kind of in and out of sleep when he utilized his abilities, and we got the cool little, I don't even know if it's like a crown, but like a really cool headpiece that wind up sort of emerging there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. But I'm liking the show so far. I was a little bit bummed that it was such a short episode. I just remember when it ended, I was thinking to myself, wait. Like, that's it? I was like, why y'all hitting me with like this acolyte sized episode for? Because like the other ones have been like 40 something minutes or relatively, decently long. But this one came in at like 32 minutes. So with credits, I mean, you're probably talking like 28 or something like that. It was just oddly short for an episode compared to what we had gotten previously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on Agatha All Along episode 5. Again, I'm going to rewatch it and then give you guys my review. So look forward to that.
I'm just saying it's totally canon that Mrs. Hart is actually Kitty from that '70s show. Is she's just the MCU version of the character who had never met Red because Red was born earlier during World War II era, as we saw it in the Agent Carter TV show. So the two of them just were born at different times in this universe, but they're totally the same character. Just pointing that out there.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys. With that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic, Stuart. And this will come into the world of Star Wars for you guys today. As we have been eagerly anticipating where Star Wars is certainly going to go in the future. Outside of Skeleton Crew and Andor Season 2, things are really up in the air in the sense of where the Star Wars franchise is going to go when it comes to television series. We do have a movie currently in production, which is The Mandalorian and Grogu. But after that, other films that were announced are certainly still waiting to be in pre-production. I believe the Rey New Jedi Order film is still waiting for a final script. We'll see what comes out of that. But no other television series have been announced, with the exception of Andor Season 2 set to drop and Skeleton Crew this December. So where do we go from here, Stuart? We've got ourselves a brand new update this week from IGN and other sources that were over at Los Angeles Comic-Con this past week, where none other than Ewan McGregor himself was discussing in a panel about Star Wars. And believe it or not, Stuart, according to him, there may be some rumblings of an Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2. Let's go ahead and dive into this and see exactly what Ewan McGregor is saying here. It doesn't sound like it's a definitive, Stuart, but the fact that he's talking about this at all, I think, is getting some people kind of anticipating a sequel. Let's see here. This says Star Wars. Ewan McGregor says Disney is exploring ideas for a season 2. McGregor was interviewed on stage at LA Comic-Con, where he said one of the Star Wars projects he wants to work on is the second season of Obi-Wan Kenobi. McGregor then stopped himself from saying, "We're definitely hoping to make more of the show," to instead saying, "exploring." That would be the word to say. This is far from confirmation that season 2 is on the way, but it's certainly more hopeful than comments made by McGregor in February when he said that there were no talks of more Obi-Wan Kenobi happening at Disney. As for what he wants to do in a second season, McGregor was met with cheers from the crowd when he talked about filming flashback scenes with Anakin Skywalker actor Hayden Christensen, and even wearing the armor donned by Obi-Wan in the Star Wars The Clone Wars animated series. And through flashbacks or not, McGregor appeared confident there's more of his character's story to be told. He says, obviously, between the end of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and when Alec Guinness is Obi-Wan Kenobi, there's got to be another few stories in there, he said. Season 1 of Kenobi earned an 8 out of 10 in IGN's review, but Disney appears reluctant to announce more despite quickly greenlighting subsequent seasons of other shows. He's been campaigning for his second season for a long time, even pitching ideas to director Deborah Chow and insisting there's another 10 years with plenty of stories to tell, is what he said. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy hasn't ruled out another season either. Saying the company might turn its attention back to Obi-Wan Kenobi down the road. And, Stuart, this is a fascinating one for me. Did I enjoy the Obi-Wan Kenobi series? I did. I had a fun time with it. I don't think it was great by any stretch of the imagination. I had my issues. I thought the Reva storyline, while I appreciated it, I think was underutilized and under-executed. I had my issues with the idea of her surviving so many damn lightsaber battles in here, especially from Darth Vader. It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't really like her being infused into Obi-Wan storyline the way that she was. I think it kind of took away from her. I appreciated her certainly as a character. I thought from a new character point of view, I definitely appreciated it, but it just felt like it was taken away a little bit from Obi-Wan's story itself. I did like the relationship between Obi-Wan and Leia, even though I do think some of the scenes and shots with Leia were a little bit comedic and not realistic to me at times. But there are elements to the relationship between her and him and Leia I was a fan of, and I really enjoyed the Obi-Wan and Reva stuff when we did get it, along with the Obi-Wan and Anakin stuff as Darth Vader as well. So enjoyable season, maybe not executed as best as I certainly would have liked to have seen it, but there are definitely elements that I thought Deborah Chow did a really great job with this. So would I like to see more Kenobi? Look, if there's story that makes sense where you're not beating up the canon and continuity of Star Wars so much, I might be open to it, Stewart. I might be open to a second season. I would be kind of curious where they go. There's a part of me that wants to revisit A New Hope and try and remind myself the exact words of Darth Vader to Obi-Wan to kind of imply like how many times have they met again? So do I think Disney is certainly taking some liberties? Absolutely. Um, but I do think that there is a way that you can execute this without necessarily trampling all over canon at this point in time. And Ewan McGregor clearly tends to believe that there's more on the bone, Stewart, than even some of us fans certainly might think of. Like when I think of a season 2, I can easily see at least maybe one more encounter. But how many more encounters do you have? I mean, I guess my question would then just be, if you do have a season 2, are you going to want to do a season 3? Are you going to want to do a season 4? I mean, when he talks about the idea that there's 10 years worth of Obi-Wan Kenobi stories, I mean, maybe there are where he leaves and goes off planet and has absolutely nothing to do with Darth Vader. I am kind of curious if you can do a Obi-Wan Kenobi show where he doesn't bump into Darth Vader and they don't battle. But Ewan clearly believes that there's certainly more here. I would say maybe give me one more show. And then if anything, Stuart, one of the things that I was kind of pitching to myself when I was going over this story here, because it definitely seems as though Ewan wants to especially work with Hayden Christensen again. It would not surprise me. Like there's an element here where I think we can get the best of both worlds out of it. Now, hear me out. I would not mind the idea of an Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2, where you give me a perspective of Obi-Wan and Anakin on both sides. Like have both their stories kind of being told during this part. I wouldn't mind the idea of season 2 either being sort of like their two stories eventually leading up to them coming together again, either in a season finale or even stretching so far out to a culmination of the stories in like a third season if they wanted to. And then if you want to keep Hayden Christensen on and have him return, maybe use Obi-Wan Kenobi in the sense of a launching point for a spin-off series where we eventually get a Darth Vader spin-off series and have Hayden kind of really focus on him and his relationship with Palpatine sort of through that Empire-esque era of Star Wars sort of thing. The only reason why I bring this up, Stuart, is because Lucasfilm tends to have an issue now with wanting to explore anything new. The idea that Disney may not have been exploring ideas for an Obi-Wan season 2, and now we hear Ewan McGregor saying they are exploring options. It makes me just think to myself, after the cancellation of the Acolyte, after all the pushback of the Acolyte, we have seen Disney become more fearful to kind of take any sort of creative risks. And what is like the antithesis of not taking any creative risks? Let's go back to what we know. And what we know is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and what we know is Darth Vader. So let's rely on these characters to kind of produce content that we know everybody's going to be attracted to because it's Ewan McGregor returning as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and having Hayden Christensen return as Darth Vader, because people definitely want to see more of them in some capacity or another. So I can easily see Disney now being open to not only a season 2, but if they really wanted to stretch out this story even more, like Ewan McGregor said, hey, there's like 10 years of stories you can certainly tell in there. If you don't want Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan and Darth Vader interacting so much to kind of keep up the mystique of a New Hope in that dialogue, maybe give us one more interaction, and then maybe like give us a spin-off of Hayden as Darth Vader, and he can kind of go on his own adventures and see just the torment and destruction that Darth Vader leaves behind in the galaxy leading up to A New Hope. I think there's definitely ways that you can do it. I would be open to seeing an Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2, especially if they brought in a fresh writer. And who knows, maybe you bring back Deborah Chow. I certainly don't know, but is there a place for it? Yes. Do I think people will come back for it? Absolutely, because it's what we all know. And it's not taking a lot of creative risks here, if you ask me. So I think it's going to happen, Stewart. I personally think this is going to happen. But what about you? Do you think it's going to happen, or where would you like to see Disney take these characters?
Um, I think there's a good chance it could happen because, like you said, it feels like Disney always takes the wrong messages. So the because of how quick they were to kind of cancel the Acolyte, I could see them being too afraid to like try anything that isn't outside their comfort zone. So, yeah, I think it will happen. Do I want it to happen? Not necessarily, because I got my fill of Obi-Wan stories with the first season. I don't know what other stories you can really tell, because the only one major thing was like that closure that he needed in order to move on with Anakin, and he pretty much got that. So I don't know what other kind of stories you can tell now that that's already been done with his character. The only thing I could think of is maybe give us some more Clone Wars flashbacks, because there's always room for more stories during the Clone Wars. But yeah, no, within that 10 years, yeah, it's not something that I personally would be hyped about, but it's Star Wars. So of course, if and when it happens, I'll definitely watch it. Oh, you're muted.
There is a part of me that, one of the gripes that I had, I guess, with Obi-Wan Kenobi was, if you are as Obi-Wan, right? Like if you're battling Vader in the finale and you see what Anakin has become, right? And he's no longer the person, like you personally believe that he's maybe lost. Um, why would you leave him alive to then run amok on the rest of the galaxy? And there is a part of me that wonders if that's something that, like, if we were to get a season 2, if that's like an obstacle for Obi-Wan to have to handle and overcome, in the sense of like, I left this, he's now sees the damage that Obi-Wan is doing, and the fact that he himself couldn't necessarily pull the trigger and kill his pupil. I do wonder if now in a season 2, maybe that's the mindset of Obi-Wan, is like seeing that he left Anakin alive and what that means certainly for the galaxy, and maybe we get another confrontation between the two. But what I think would be interesting is, because Darth Vader says in A New Hope, if I'm not mistaken, he says, last time that we met, I was but a learner, now I am the master, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part of me that wants to see a part 2 battle, but this time maybe with Obi-Wan having the wrong mindset going into the battle, because the idea of a Jedi with the intentions of going out and killing somebody, I don't necessarily think if that's like the clearest head or mind a Jedi should certainly have. So where I would like to see Darth Vader actually be the one to get the upper hand this time. And if he can defeat an Obi-Wan Kenobi sort of in a battle and have Obi-Wan survive, I still think that that would then open up a new hope to certainly still being accurate in the sense of like, yeah, he is the master. Because last time we saw you guys, he wind up getting the upper hand because Obi-Wan came out for revenge the second time around, trying to correct a mistake that he made beforehand. And I just think there's a part of me that would think that it would continue to build off of the further legacy of Obi-Wan failing Anakin.
Mhm.
And continuing to pay for his failure. But I don't know. I think there's maybe, like I said, one other confrontation you might be able to get away with and excuse if you have really great writing. But after that, I would want to see them kind of go their own way. But who knows, Stuart? If they're gonna if they give us a second season and a potential flashback for a Clone Wars moment, who's to say that we don't get like a Clone Wars animated, a Clone Wars live action show at some point in time? They may be a little bit too old to do that. I mean, even some de-aging and stuff. But I just think that this opens up the world for either now a Darth Vader series or even a Clone Wars series after potentially a possible season 2 of Obi-Wan.
Yeah. To clarify, not that I want like a whole series where it's the same actors, but in Clone Wars era like outfits, but more of just when they do those occasional flashbacks, I always love those, especially getting to see them wear the outfits from the Clone Wars cartoon. Like I freaking love that moment in the Ahsoka series where it flashes back to the Clone Wars and we get to see younger Ahsoka and Hayden Christensen wearing their Clone Wars battle armor. I'm like that was the fan service I needed.
Yeah, no, it was pretty perfect. It was pretty perfect. Marcelino says maybe with season 2 we can get Cody. Excuse me, we can get Cody. In fact, when Cody was originally intended to appear but never did, unfortunately, which is weird considering they could have easily gotten to Morrison.
I mean, they had the actor back. He was in one shot of Obi-Wan season 1, but he was technically there.
If season 2 does happen, I want the Inquisitors to do more and not just stand around and be treated as an actual threat and not an annoyance or fodder. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Inquisitors play a role. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, he's not confirming that Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2 is happening, but that they are at least exploring ideas. To me, that means this may actually happen. But we'll keep you guys posted on any new updates. But let us know your guys' thoughts. Do you want an Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2? If so, what storyline would you kind of explore to certainly continue to make it fit within canon? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And Stuart, with that out of the way, we will move on to, we're gonna stay in space. We're gonna stay amongst the stars, if you will, and go from Star Wars over to one of my favorite franchises, and that is Voltron, baby. That's right, Voltron, the live action movie, is in the news here this week. We've been keeping you up to date in regards to development on this upcoming movie. As aside from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, this is probably my other live action adaptation from the 80s that I'm really, really looking forward to. And Amazon MGM continues to move forward with this project, Stuart, as last week I believe we might have talked about casting for one of the roles in Voltron. I can't remember if we brought that up in honorable mentions or if it was actually a main topic, but this time, Stuart, this one deserves to be main topic because this new casting announcement, I think, is huge for the Voltron movie. And we've got, believe it or not, Henry Cavill, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Henry Cavill, the Man of Steel himself from Zack Snyder's universe, is set to star in Voltron. I think this is a huge, huge get for the franchise as a whole. And definitely a great name to certainly attach here to hopefully get some people in seats. So I am really looking forward to this one. But let's go ahead and dive into this. This is an exclusive from The Hollywood Reporter. Henry Cavill to star in Voltron, Amazon MGM. It says Rawson Marshall Thurber, the filmmaker behind the Netflix hit Red Notice, is also directing the live action adaptation. It says Henry Cavill, the Superman actor and star of The Witcher, has come aboard to top line in the live action feature based on the mecha anime that Marshall Rawson Marshall Thurber is directing. The actor joins Daniel Quinn Toy, the newcomer who impressed the studio, and director with his West Side work opposite Tom Holland in the leading role. Voltron is based off of the Japanese sci-fi series Beast King Go Lion. Um, it ran in the mid 1980s. The premise centered on 5 young pilots in a battalion named the Robot Lions, which are vehicles that join together to form a mega robot known as Voltron. The plot details on the new version is unclear, although Thurber did write the script. Cavill first appeared in 2 action thrillers this year in Argyle, along with Guy Ritchie's The Mystery of Ungentlemanly Warfare. He also had an audience cheering cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine as well. So yeah, man, Henry Cavill Stewart is joining the ranks of Voltron. I am actually a really big fan of this casting news. I really have no idea who he might potentially play in here. When we got to the casting announcement last week for the other young actor in one of the lead roles, I was like, oh, maybe that's our Keith. Maybe that's our Keith here. If they're going the routes, who knows? Maybe that kid is Pidge for all I know. Is Henry Cavill Keith? Is he somebody else? Maybe who was the guy from the Last Defenders or the animated series from Netflix, Shiro? I don't remember if Shiro was like an original character or if he was in the classic Voltron series or not. But I am curious as to who Cavill can potentially be playing. But let me ask you, Stuart, how do you feel about this casting announcements? Any idea as to who he's playing or who you'd personally like to see him play as? I would love to know your thoughts.
So I still to this day have not seen Voltron, either the original or the new Netflix one. Although the Netflix one has been on my radar for quite some time, so I'm sure I'll get around to it eventually. But yeah, no, Henry Cavill, I love him as an actor, so anything he's in, I'm definitely looking forward to. So as for what kind of role I could see him having in this, like again, coming from someone who isn't a Voltron fan, what's good about Henry Cavill is like he does have that good range of playing either a superhero or super villain. So I honestly see him go either way, being like one of the many people who form Voltron, or being the team mentor, because every team's got to have the mentor. So I could see him playing that just as fine. But a part of me, I got to say, I kind of want to see him play the villain. I think that it would be kind of fun to see Henry Cavill as a villain. Whether or not he's in alien makeup, just voicing him, or if he's like just a human villain or a surprise villain or something like that. That's what I want to see from Henry Cavill. So, yeah, I think this is a cool choice. The more I hear about the Voltron movie, the more, the more I'm intrigued and the more I realize I really should watch the Netflix show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you are gonna watch any thing from Voltron, if you want something a little bit more current, I highly would recommend the Voltron series on Netflix. I thought it was astounding, to certainly say the least. Nothing wrong with the original. Definitely go. But that's what I fell in love with Voltron with when it comes to the original. So again, if you are a newer generation, I would probably say check out the animated one on Netflix first, and then if you really enjoy what you see, then maybe go back to the '80s stuff a little bit more also. But you know what, Stuart? I really like your perspective on this, in the sense of Henry Cavill potentially playing a villain. I would really find it fascinating to see him play somebody like an Emperor Zarkon. Whether or not they're going to have him in a bunch of makeup would be pretty interesting. He could even play Prince Lotor, I think would be a really fascinating one. Prince Lotor sort of fits more or less that mold of when I think of Henry Cavill in the role of like Highlander or even The Witcher, right? Let him grow out that long hair or have another fantastic wig on Henry. I can easily see him playing like a Prince Lotor too. There are elements to him to where I would like to see him play. I can either see him playing the guy from the animated series. I just said his name too. From the Netflix series. Damn, why is his name
The main villain, or
no, one of the main characters in here? I can't remember his name now. I'm just hold on. Let me pull it up on So we got Sven. I'm not talking about Sven though. Although maybe he will be playing Sven, but I do think that there's wasn't I thought I thought he had like another name though. Why am I not able to find him on Google? Hold on a second. Legendary Defender characters. Shiro. That's what his name is. Shiro. Although I do wonder if Shiro, if he was supposed to be like the Sven of the team itself. But I think Shiro would be a really great addition. Also, yeah, either Shiro as sort of like the older mentor to the kids that are going to become the pilots for the Voltron beasts or the Voltron lions. So I would either want him as Shiro or as a villain in Prince Lotor or Zarkon. I would absolutely love to see him in either of these roles. You know, Marcelino says, I'm glad Henry Cavill will work, but honestly, in recent years, his praise as an actor has kind of dwindled, especially after his work on Witcher. Most people know now just see him as a boring actor. Yeah, I will say, I think he did. I thought he had a pretty good role in the most recent Guy Ritchie film, The Unexpected Gentleman, or I can't remember the name of the title.
Oh, Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Yeah, I did hear
Yeah.
that Henry Cavill was pretty good in that role also. So, maybe because he's taken up a lot of action roles lately, some people think that his range is kind of minimal. But the idea of putting him in another sci-fi sort of space adventure, I think probably fits something that Henry Cavill will probably fit in that world really well. I mean, he's going to be doing was it Warhammer stuff too, if I'm not mistaken,
Mm-hmm.
also. So, when I think of like sci-fi, fantastical element stuff, I do think Henry Cavill lives in that world relatively well. So I do think that his range will probably fit what they're asking for when it comes to Voltron. But again, I don't know how. Who knows? Maybe the kid actors are better actors than Henry in here. I don't know. I don't know if they're counting on him to be sort of the vessel that carries this movie. I think name recognition probably might help, but I don't know if from an acting perspective, if he's going to necessarily carry this role, or the other team members will certainly do that. So I do think that this fits very much in Henry Cavill's wheelhouse, Stewart, and it's one that I'm kind of looking forward to kind of seeing him take over. So I'm looking forward to this, man. I'm a big Henry Cavill fan. I love what he did with Superman. I'm not going to sit here and say he's like an Oscar level nominating actor. I don't believe he's been nominated for actors. I don't when I look to go see a Henry Cavill movie, that's not necessarily what I'm expecting either. So I do think that Henry Cavill knows the roles that work for him, and hopefully those that are casting him are putting him in those roles because it certainly fits, and for his name recognition alone too. So we'll see who he ends up being cast as, though.
I don't know, man. That Deadpool Wolverine cameo was pretty Oscar worthy, to my opinion. Yeah, I think he really. What I love about Henry Cavill, he is a nerd and he loves sci-fi fantasy, which is why I can see him being really excited for a project like this, and it's definitely why I'm really looking forward to his Warhammer project. Something I've only just slightly been kind of dipping my toe in, but I haven't like fully invested into Warhammer yet because holy shit, that is an expensive hobby.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
But yeah, I do look forward to that when that project eventually comes out. And Voltron, though, is that being produced by Amazon?
Yeah, it's Amazon MGM is producing it. I want to say it's also by aren't they doing the Mattel? No, I can't remember if they're doing the sheet. I don't remember.
Wait,
if they're
is
doing
Voltron part of Mattel?
I don't believe so. Oh,
okay.
But Amazon MGM just seems to have their hand in like a lot of things currently right now.
Like because they got that and He-Man and a few other things.
Right, they do have He-Man, right? Doesn't Amazon
Yeah.
MGM have He-Man? And they
believe
probably
so,
have
yeah.
the live action She-Ra too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So they're really dipping their toes in a lot of 1980s franchises for sure.
Yeah. But that all being said, though, I wonder if that was like part of the thing. If they're like, hey, we'll give you a bigger budget for Warhammer if you do Voltron for us.
I guess for me, the question that I have now then is like, with them being produced by Amazon MGM, Clearly that's a big studio company, but I do wonder if these are going to be meant for straight to streaming films, or if they will be having big theatrical releases. So I'm definitely keeping my fingers crossed for big theatrical release. I mean, with a name like Henry Cavill, I would think you would want to put it on the big screen, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I definitely would hope so too.
But let us know your thoughts, guys. Henry Cavill cast to star in Voltron live action. No word on who he's playing, hero or villain. What would you certainly like to see out of Henry Cavill from Voltron? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And then last but not least, Stuart, we got one more topic for you guys as we are going to visit the world of 007, man. Look, it's been a while since we got ourselves a Daniel Craig James Bond film. With the way that the last James Bond film ended, it does put into question as to what the future of James Bond is certainly going to be. We've been waiting patiently for them to announce any new revelations, a new movie, a new casting for who's going to be playing James Bond or the 007 character. And we haven't necessarily gotten that as of yet. But I do think that this new article, Stewart, really explains to us as to why, as it seems as though the studios are not looking to rush this, Stewart. It looks like they definitely want to get this right. We were just talking about Amazon MGM, and they're back in the news again because not only, Stewart.
Oh, it looks like you froze there.
Do they have like Voltron or She-Ra? But apparently they all franchise as well. You said something, Stewart? I'm sorry.
No, it's just like you were kind of glitching there for a bit. But now I think you're back.
My bad.
Yeah. So just making sure. So you were basically just saying that like they're currently not in a rush for the next James Bond movie, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they definitely seemingly are taking their time. According to the studio boss at MGM, it says Bond's audience will be patient. Is what the new boss of Amazon MGM boss stated as they hunt for a new 007. Jennifer Salke, who is increasing investment in Britain, says some of the ideas floated in the post Daniel Craig hiatus have been interesting, to say the least. He says if there's anyone who knows what is happening behind the scenes in this saga over who will become the next James Bond, it's Jennifer Salke, the global head of Amazon MGM Studios, home of the box office crown jewels, including the 007 and Rocky franchises. Salke was part of the Amazon team that sealed an audacious $8.5 billion deal in 2021 to buy the 100-year-old MGM and its celebrated library of 4,000 films and 17,000 hours of TV programming. Nevertheless, it is the future of the evergreen spy that remains the hottest topic of conversation among many fans. The problem is that control of James Bond at 62 years old is one of the longest running film franchises, remains largely with Eon Productions in the UK, which is run by Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson. Eon's strict control even extends to who plays Bond. Intense media interest has sparked a flurry of speculation, naming almost any male actor who might fit the profile, from Idris Elba to Aaron Taylor-Johnson and more recently Barry Keoghan, the star of the Amazon hit Saltburn. Daniel Craig's last outing was as a super spy, hit cinemas in 2021, 6 months after Amazon announced the new deal to buy MGM. Salke is neither shaken nor stirred by the hiatus. That's pretty clever. There are lots of ideas about potential actors that have popped up that I thought were interesting. I think there are lots of different ways we can go. We have a good and close relationship with Eon and Barbara and Michael. We are not looking to disrupt the way those wonderful films are made. For us, we are taking their lead. The global audience will be patient. We don't want too much time between films, but we are not concerned at this point. She also gave her version of reports alleging that early on she got on the wrong side of Broccoli for raising the idea of a Bond TV series. She says it was never really raised in that way. Who was conducting the interview? She says, when you are looking at iconic intellectual property like that, you look at what the entire long term future might be. Of course, you look at every facet. She talks about the idea that she adds that the MGM deal was definitely uncharted waters for her specifically. But it does look as though Stewart, for the most part, they are taking their time when it comes to this. So yeah, they're not interesting things so far, but a lot of they said they are a lot of ideas about potential actors that have popped in that she thought were interesting. But for the most part, they have a good and close relationship with Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson, along with Eon Productions, who really gets to choose who's going to be sort of the next Bond or the next 007 for that matter. So the general audience is waiting patiently, and it seems as though they are in no rush. Stuart, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's good because I'm in no rush for another James Bond movie. I felt kind of satisfied with the way the series came to its temporary end with the Daniel Craig version of the character. So I'm not really in a hurry for another Bond movie anytime soon. Preferably in the next 5 to 6 years, but I don't need one in like the next year or so. I also find it weird because you were mentioning that there was like some worry over possible consideration of a James Bond TV show. To me, I find that funny because I think that'd be the perfect next direction to go in, especially if you're not sure where you want to take the movie franchise. I think TV is often like a good way to experiment with different ideas, see what kind of things younger audiences might be into. So I think that if you have some crazy off the wall ideas of what you might want to try with the James Bond character, doing a 007 TV show would be the way to go if that's if that's what you're looking for. So yeah, I think it's smart what they're doing, playing it safe, waiting instead of rushing back into the franchise and getting people both fatigued from James Bond from there being too much of them, and then also, rushing a half-ass movie rather than taking your time to develop something that everyone's going to love. Well, it'll if they do that, it'll only bring in more hype for the franchise and get people excited for the next James Bond movie. I think the only thing I want out of them is that I just hope that whoever they get as James Bond, they don't try to repeat something that's already happened from any of the other previous adaptations of James Bond, and that they try to bring their own unique take to the character. And I look forward to the next James Bond movie, but I am happy to hear they are in no rush to bring it out.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same league with you in the sense I'm not in any rush for them to bring it out as of right now, especially considering, Stuart, believe it or not, I still have not seen the last James Bond movie.
Oh,
I still
really?
have. I've got this. You know what? I'm starting to realize, Stuart. I've got a thing with saying goodbye to characters. Like I literally have got a thing with like ending my relationships with some of these characters. I have not watched Daniel Craig's last outing as 007. I have not watched Keanu Reeves' John Wick 4 to say farewell to his character. I have still not watched Melissa Benoist's season finale for Supergirl to say goodbye to her character. I don't want to say goodbye to any of these people, Stuart. I just don't.
Have you watched Cosmic Fury?
I don't even think I finished the last episode of Cosmic Fury
Yep.
yet. I still have not finished it. I mean, maybe I haven't. I just don't remember it. But I did watch all of Once and Always. I don't think I finished Cosmic Fury yet. So Stuart, I
You
have
still
an
haven't even
issue.
said bye to the Power Rangers yet.
I have not been wanting to let go of the Power Rangers for years now, man. So there's probably a me issue per se more than the show issue. So I definitely need to watch this. So please take your time in finding a brand new James Bond or 007 or whatever the case may be, because I would agree, Stuart. I do think that the global audience certainly will be patient. James Bond is just a fascinating property to me, where it just feels like, well, look, I think every fandom has like their own fans that gripe, but I feel like because it's such an old franchise, I feel like people want them to treat it with kid gloves. Like I don't see or hear the outlandish calls for hurry up already. Where's our next James Bond film? Like I feel like if you're a fan of James Bond, you're like super respectful of the
Mhm.
Broccoli family and how they've really handled this franchise all these years in the sense of taking their time, usually finding a pretty good actor to go ahead and bring in the role, surrounding them with the great director and script. Like the James Bond movies are really well made. And so I think because of that, the fan base is always really open to being able to take a step back and allow this franchise to kind of breathe and make the necessary moves that it certainly needs to. From my perspective, I would agree with you, Stuart. I do like the idea of a James Bond television series. I do appreciate her at least clarifying the idea, like, hey, it's not that they hated the concept, or that it was a big argument or pushback from them from the television series, but when you do own this type of property, you have to kind of explore all facets of it. And I don't blame her for wanting to execute a television series or even using that as another potential outlet for them to make money. Because I mean, you look at a show, like when I think of a James Bond series, I easily think of like a Jack Reacher. I think if you can do a Jack Reacher series, James Bond would be really, really good. Even if you wanted to do, say, a James Bond movie, but then do a 007 series, I think that would be interesting, because then you can have two different characters kind of playing that role, right? Maybe you can have, say, another James Bond movie that's sort of a semi prequel to anything that Daniel Craig's James Bond did, but you can utilize a television series if you want to explore somebody new taking over that 007 role and pushing it forward sort of into the future. Those are just ideas that I'm having, but I can see why the boss of Amazon, MGM, would certainly pitch the concept of a television series at some point in time. Regardless, though, I can see why maybe they didn't want to go that route, because when you do think of James Bond and 007, especially its lineage, you think of it on the big screen. Like he
Mhm.
is just that. I don't want to say that old of a character, but he's been a property that's just been on the big screen for its entirety, and he carries that gravitas, and his adventures are meant to be seen on a big screen, sort of thing, a bigger than life sort of adventure. And so I can see the idea too of wanting to hold your ground and say, no, James Bond is strictly just for the big screen. Like if you start maybe trying to dilute it and make it for the television series, does it feel as special anymore, sort of thing. So I definitely can see why those that own this property are as headstrong and defiant to keep him on the big screen. But take your time with this, man. If you need another 4 or 5 years, I think people are more than happy to have that wait, digest what it is that Daniel Craig did, give the opportunity for Daniel Craig's time as James Bond just to kind of continue to grow in favor of people, and then when the time is right, go ahead and reveal somebody new. So yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's any rush whatsoever, and I think the fan base is understanding enough to allow them to take all the time that they certainly need.
Definitely. I think James Bond is one of those rare properties where I think most people are in agreement of quality over quantity.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's know your guys' thoughts. What would you like to see from the James Bond franchise going forward? Do you like the concept of a TV series that seems to have been at least thrown out there as an option? Do you have any particular fantasy casting as to who you would certainly like to see next as your next 007? Certainly go ahead and certainly let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
Well, if we look at the charts, clearly what's going to happen is we're going to get a multiverse crossover with every actor that's ever played James Bond before. The charts say that's what the audience wants.
Yeah, multiverse, baby. You know it. Everything multiverse these days. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Daniel Craig's James Bond didn't die. Maybe somehow he got pulled into some sort of time portal or an incursion, and now he's gonna meet his other other AI de-aged James Bond in upcoming movies?
I mean, according to Planet of the Apes, a nuclear bomb can let you time travel. So I believe it. I believe that the explosion at the end of that James Bond movie could send him to another dimension.
It's confirmed right here for you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the James Bond franchise as a whole. And with that out of the way, Stewart, I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to dive into our live viewer questions segment of the show. If you ever want to go ahead and submit a live viewer question over, how do you do that? Well, I'm glad that you asked. So simply go over to our YouTube channel, as you see here, APlus Hero Report. And every Saturday afternoon or evening, I'll go ahead and post a video or a post on our community tab. Click on that community tab, and voila, live viewer questions. Let's see who we got here today. And if anything, we might put on some music while I get that started for us here. There we go. It should be okay. If the video's too loud, if the music's too loud, let me know. Marcelino says, so we're going to use CGI to resurrect corpses of the James Bond actors who have passed to come back. Yep, exactly.
Of course.
Yep.
Forgot. Wait, how many James Bond actors have passed away? Because I know obviously the OG did, but I think the guy who played James Bond for one movie is still alive. Obviously, Timothy Dalton is still alive. What's his face from GoldenEye and all the other ones afterwards. I'm terrible with actors.
Is Sean Connery still alive?
Sean Connery, that was the one who passed away.
Oh, man.
I think he did, didn't he?
I think he did. No, I'm tripping. I think he did, though. No, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now because now I'm too curious.
Yeah, I'm confused now. Why you look that up? Marcelino with the question. The Megaforce cast gets criticized for being one-dimensional wooden ripoffs of the MMPR cast, but there is something that both new and old fans have been noticing a lot lately, and that the MMPR casts are just as wooden and one-dimensional. It's just that we think they're better because they were originals and grew up with them, but looking back now, Troy is not that different from Jason. But do you agree with this consensus?
I mean, my big thing is that the Power Rangers was like in the 90s, and the whole thing about Power Rangers that was so cool when you kind of like look at specifically MMPR to RPM is that the show kind of evolved. It adapted with modern audiences, would kind of get more mature every now and then. Sometimes in terms of like the audience that they're going for, it would take a few steps back because obviously, you know, they want to keep it for kids. So, you know, I feel like it would constantly go on this pattern of being one season would get slightly more mature than the other, then the next season would get slightly more mature, and then would take a couple steps back, which makes total sense. But in terms of the way they're written, they always like, it felt like there was always improvement on how they write characters and that kind of stuff. So with Megaforce and Samurai, they both just felt like a huge step back in the way the characters were written and how like two-dimensional they felt. Like, yeah, you could say it's very much just like they did in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had the excuse of, you know, it was the first of its kind. It had its baby legs. It was still trying to figure out what kind of show it wanted to be. Whereas Megaforce had 20 years of history to look at to know what kind of show it wanted to be and to know how to get it right.
Yeah, I guess for me, he says, we need to take off the nostalgia goggles in order to be fair and critical. So MMPR casts are just as wooden and one-dimensional. I mean, look, I to a certain extent, I would agree that yes, they are just as one-dimensional and a little bit wooden at times. But I think to be fair to Stewart, and I'm not saying, look, I don't know if, like, for me, I don't personally hold MMPR as like the best series, like, just from a nostalgia standpoint. While I appreciate the show, I don't think it's the best season of Power Rangers, right? So I'm already kind of critical of the idea of that when I view sort of MMPR. But to what Stewart said, I do give them, I don't want to say a free pass, but based off of them being the first ones out of the gate, to me it would explain why that is. When you get to something like Megaforce, I'm sorry, but you got to be past the 1990s MMPR as far as performance, and as far as like what we're asking from you from a storyline and an acting sort of standpoint. So while I definitely am critical of MMPR for not having the best performances, because I don't consider it the best Power Rangers series out there. Yes, nostalgia certainly is a thing, but I don't consider it the best. But the fact that MMPR was the first, if you're Megaforce, you gotta be better. So I understand the criticisms towards it, and the same thing when it comes to Troy. Like, I can see Saban wanting to have made Troy like Jason. And in that regards, I can see it, but I would still say I think Jason was still a far stronger character than Troy. It's almost like you wanted to replicate Jason, but you even devolve that character even more when it comes to somebody like Troy, because I do think Jason was a little bit better of a character, or at least a little bit more open of a character in regards to him speaking and emotions and things like that. I think Troy almost did Jason a disservice a little bit.
I think like the other thing too is that with MMPR, the other thing is the characters were written to be like people you would look up to, not necessarily like characters that you were supposed to relate to. They wanted to be characters you should look up to. But like in Megaforce, it's like they try to do both, and I don't think it works. I don't think any of the characters come off as relatable, and they're, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I watched Megaforce as an adult, so I can't say from the perspective of a kid. But as a kid, it would be hard for me to look at those guys as like, people I would want to aspire to be like. But it's hard to say because, again, I watched it as an adult. So for all I know, maybe in the perspective of a kid, those are the kind of people that, you would want to, aspire to be like.
Marcelino says, for a while there have been attempts to try and reboot the Buffy franchise. There's been divisiveness from the fandom, mainly because it's yet another reboot, but I think I may know a solution that pleases everyone but might be controversial. Rather than doing a reboot, I think they should take the Superman Returns route and continue after season 7 while recasting everyone. There were comics that are canon to the Buffyverse that serve as seasons 8 through 12. They could adapt those comics into a TV show and that way everyone wins. Corporations make money. The original Buffy timeline continues. Fans are not. Comic readers can see what they're missing out on, and Buffy fandom finally gets more to talk about and brought back to relevancy. I think it's a cool concept.
Yeah, I'm not entirely opposed to that.
Yeah,
For me personally, I was never a huge fan of the comic books. Like, I gave them a try. I just they didn't click with me. But maybe if I saw it in the form of a TV show, that might change things. For me personally, I think that if it were up to me, I would just go with the route of completely rebooting it. But I also don't mind that idea either, keeping a continuation, but with like a kind of fresh new young cast of actors.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate how you tackle that, Marcelino. I do think that's a really good idea. I am one of those people that believe, you're never fully going to be able to appease and make everybody happy. There's always going to be some people that push back against the content that you wind up creating. But, if you are going to go out of your way to try and find some level of middle ground, as much as I do think that this would be a great middle ground, I'm pretty sure you'll still find some Buffy fans that have issues with it in some capacity. So again, I don't think you can please everybody, but the idea of attempting to try and find that middle ground, I think that's a good one, Marcelino. I think that's a pretty good one. So, who knows if that's the route that they ever go, but it's a good attempt, to certainly say the least. Marcelino, and he also says Marvel and DC have always done what if and Elseworld stories for years. However, for some reason, those companies have seemed to be hesitant in providing what if stories for other fictional series. And whenever they do what if stories, they only seem to do them once and never want to commit to a full series exploring multiple what if stories. So why haven't we gotten an animated series on what if stories for Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Adventure Times? I mean, he goes on and 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 so much more. I mean, you could have left like 3 or 4 titles, Marcelino. You didn't got to put everybody's name in there, but pretty much every franchise known to mankind, and much more. Why do you think that is, Stewart? That we haven't gotten more what if stories from those?
I think because people already get a lot of shit when they make a cinematic universe, and automatically the first thing people say is, oh, you're just ripping off Marvel, even though cinematic universes have been around before Marvel. Even if Marvel is the first one to really perfect it, they have been around before. But that being said, it's hard to create like something without it getting compared to something. So I think that's the big thing with What If, because Marvel beat everyone to the punch in terms of creating an entire series of what if scenarios. I think a lot of studios are just afraid of being compared to Marvel again. That's my guess as to why. Because I think any franchise, like, dude, this is something that the Dragon Ball Z fan base would like go crazy over, like a what if Dragon Ball series.
Don't we have that for Dragon Ball Heroes? Isn't that kind of like a what if?
It kind of is. I guess you could say like all the video games kind of have their own like what if storylines for that. But I think that if you did like a what if like anime, that's something that like fans would go absolutely insane over. And I think that it would. There's a lot of franchises that would benefit from it. Someone needs to be brave to go first and go, hey, I'm not afraid to do this thing that Marvel already did. That's what I think it's going to take for it to like become a more common thing.
Yeah, I think just because it's been Marvel and DC that's done it so often, it's just because it's almost ingrained in their DNA to do those stories for years. I mean, they've been doing What If and Elseworlds for years, so it's a very natural thing for them to kind of go that route. Whereas other big franchises and stuff, they don't really tap into that element sort of very often. When you say things like What If or Elseworlds, like looking at some of the names that you put up there, like Game of Thrones, it may not necessarily be What If or Elseworlds, but I kind of view like House of Dragon or the Hedge Knight, the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, sort of, I don't want to say sort of like as Elseworlds, but the fact that they're like another story kind of taking place within that world, instead of so much of flipping the world on its head and giving us a different perspective of that world a little bit. Like, I am kind of surprised that like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hasn't done something like that. I feel like that would probably be in their wheelhouse. So some of the things on here I can easily see being in that wheelhouse of flipping the world on their head and giving us different perspectives. Other ones maybe seem a little bit too out of reach. Could you tell them? Absolutely. But I guess for me, my question would be, how natural of a feel for those franchises would a What If or an Elseworld story kind of feel? And would the fan base even want something like that? Or are they that committed to those main characters in which they just want to see that world kind of played in? I just think Marvel and DC have already established that in their lore for years, that it's much more comfortable for them. Whereas I would agree with you, Stuart. Like, could you do that with some of these properties? Absolutely. But I think because it's not natural for them, it definitely feels much more of a risk for their fan base, I think. So I don't know, but we'll see. I think that's pretty cool though, if they were to go that route.
To bring it back to the previous question, maybe that's how you reboot the Buffy franchise. You just turn Buffy into a What If series.
A What If series, yeah. Elseworld series for sure.
What if Angel never came back from hell? What if, Faith never turned to the dark side? Something like that.
Yeah, and this is also another one here too, is like, I think you start getting into like the fan fiction realm of things, where there is a side of the fans that will just be like, it comes across as terrible fan fiction written by AI. I that's another argument I can easily see that happening, and it's the fear of them thinking like, oh, fans are just going to get upset because it's going to feel like a fan fiction story, Yeah, they're not like, I see people all the time getting on like when what's a good example of that, like Yeah, Todd Phillips, right? He just literally did a story about the Joker, or Arthur Fleck, right? And then people got upset with it because it's not the Joker that they wanted or had their mentality. And I can see that same thing becoming an issue for like Tom Cruise's Ethan Hawke. Oh, that's not the Ethan Hawke that I knew. You know, like you changed him around. Like I could just see people saying, "Oh, this is just really bad fan fiction," and changing these characters. As like you don't, you're not proud of who these characters are. You're not proud of the source material. You're not really a fan. Like I can easily see that really becoming sort of a thing. And I think that's probably why they decide not to do it. Blossom, did you hear about Hasbro doing to Power Rangers suits and props, auctioning them? If I had the money, I'd do it just to give the Ranger suits back to their rightful owners. They deserve to keep them after all they've been known as their Ranger characters for such a long time, right? Yeah, I did hear about that because Hunter Dino, I think, was trying to get her costume. She wanted to auction it, but she was saying that she thinks by her making an announcement of auction, of wanting to bid something, that somebody would purposefully then try to outbid her, and you know, and then she would never get it at the end of the day either. I don't know. I'm always I think for me, I'm always the type of person that's like, I think you should allow the actors and actresses to take the suits home. Like I think if they played them, they should be able to own those suits for the entirety of their lives. Like once things shut down, if you're not going to use these props anymore, whoever was the last person to wear them should be able to take them home, be able to take a jacket, a pen, a stapler, whatever from the set if they want to. Because I do think that they certainly deserve to have them. But you know, I don't know if it's a surprise that they're auctioning them off. I feel like other studios probably do that as well, but maybe I'm wrong, Stewart.
No, that's right. Most studios do, but I think this is just kind of more confirmation that Hasbro is kind of done with Power Rangers, and they're just trying to get rid of what they have and try to
need that money.
Get whatever little money they can get back from like however much they spent on it when they bought it from Saban. I also, I agree with you. Like, I hear stories about some actors, like specifically Ryan Reynolds, who just walked off the set of Deadpool with the costume on, and I just think I would probably do the same thing. Like, I think actors deserve to keep whatever like kind of props they work with, unless like you for sure, like the studio for sure needs it for like something else that they're working on for like a sequel or something. But in terms of like Marvel, especially, it's like they got enough money. If Ryan Reynolds wants to take back a Deadpool costume, you can afford to make another one. If one of, and you know, the Power Ranger costumes aren't even that expensive. If one of the actors wants to, you know, keep the costume for memorabilia purposes, it's like, let them, you know, it's not gonna cost you that much. So I wish her luck. I hope she's able to get that in the auction. Personally, if I had the money, I too would be like, oh my god, I'd be like bidding on everything.
Yeah, me too. Appreciate the clarification, Marcelina. I said Ethan Hawke, and it was Ethan Hunt. I apologize. Thank you so much for clarifying that for me. Doomsday. Who was your favorite cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine?
I think, oh god, it's a mix between the Human Torch and Blade. I love the way the Human Torch was revealed, though, because like just the way it was built up, like I saw it coming. I'm not gonna lie, I totally saw it coming from a mile away, but I still absolutely loved it. And then Blade, just because it was cool to see him back on the big screen, and I love that exchange between him and Ryan Reynolds. I don't like you. You never did. But clearly, whatever beef they had during Blade 3 is gone because 3. You know he came back for this.
I never did. I think one, I would agree with you for sure. The Human Torch one was a great one. But look, I'm gonna give props to Channing Tatum, man, as Gambit. I think they really did the most with his role. His accent definitely had me laughing, but if anything, I'm just glad that one, he looked badass. I love the costume on him. I'm so glad that they literally ripped his costume from like the 1990s X-Men. He looked fantastic in there. So, props to him for being able to hit his fantastic moves, bringing him to life. Finally, this is something that he had been working on for such a long time. It was probably a dream come true for him. So, I'm really glad that he managed to kind of pull it off. And for me personally, while I'm okay if this is the last time that we see Channing Tatum as Gambit, I thought he did a really good job in here, finally bringing him to life. So Gambit and Human Torch for me was it. And it's so funny that you brought this question up, because I literally was talking with a coworker this past week about the Human Torch Chris Evans moment, because I remember talking to him and I said I love the post-credit scene where you come to find out that he had been talking shit this whole entire time. Like Deadpool was telling the truth, and I love the fact that they had visual evidence for it. It was brilliant. I loved it.
I'm sick of all these terrible rumors that I got Johnny killed.
yeah, right. Based on the suits alone, which Sentai do you think is better, King Oger or Boon Boomger? King Oger. If I'm talking about just suits alone, probably King Oger. But props to Boon Boomger. I did just recently see their upgrades with like their race jackets. Oh my god, the race jacket looks incredible. So yeah, I do dig the upgrade for Boon Boomger. But I still think King Oger is some of the best Super Sentai outfits we've gotten.
That's funny. So their like battle armor is literally like jackets that they wear over the costumes.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's like race car jackets.
That's awesome, because it's also like, yeah, that's pretty fitting for a race car themed Super Sentai.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm trying to see if they have it, but yeah, I believe that's their power up. But I don't know what all comes with the power up, but I'm a big fan of it though. I think it looks dope. But yeah, I probably would put King Oger over them. Do you have any unpopular opinions about Super Sentai? If so, what are they? Unpopular opinions about Super Sentai. If so, what are they? It's become a little bit too much of a sausage fest, y'all. I'm gonna need more women in my Super Sentai teams. There's a lot of dudes. There's a lot of dudes on these teams lately. And to the point to where like I'm lucky if we get one. I feel like we're lucky if we get two women on a team. And I think right now we literally only have one female on Boom Boomger team, if I'm not mistaken. I think even the Sixth Ranger was a male. And I feel like that's kind of been. I'm trying to think of like the past couple of Super Sentai shows. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, but I'm gonna need less sausage fest and more women on the team, please.
I don't think I have any unpopular Super Sentai opinions at the moment. Unless I guess I'll just say this: Q Ranger is my favorite Super Sentai season, and if that's not a popular opinion, then that's my unpopular opinion there.
Yeah, I believe I'm trying to remember the last time we had two women on a team. I'm thinking Tokuger, but I gotta think that we've had two women on the team even after Tokuger.
The last one that I watched was oh god, what was it called? The really shiny one, because they all had suits based on gems.
Oh, Kira Major,
yeah, because that one had two women.
Yeah, they did have two women in Kira Major. You're right.
Yeah.
I am a fan of two women on the team. I'm not a fan of just like one chick, but that's just me personally.
Yeah.
Peg C, what are your thoughts on when Tommy became the White Ranger? It was like God opened up the heavens. Visually, I thought it was really stunning. I can't remember. I think I was pretty invested in who the White Ranger was. I think my thoughts were either Bill or Tommy. And so when it was Tommy, I was just hella impressed. Didn't Kimberly faint when it was revealed? I might have fainted too. I don't remember, but I just remember it was a great moment. I love the build up to it.
I don't remember her fainting, but that does sound like something she would have done.
He takes off her helmet and she just collapses. But I thought that's what she did, but maybe I'm wrong.
But I
Yeah.
love that reveal because they almost like prepared us for disappointment, because like they build up the fact that Zordon is creating a new Ranger, and all the team are like, well, why not Tommy? Why not give the power to Tommy? And so the entire time you're expecting to be kind of disappointed, but then at the end, oh, it is Tommy! Yay!
Yeah. I thought they did a really proper build up for it. I thought it was handled really well. Peg C, who was your all-time favorite Robin? Ooh, Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, or Damian Wayne? So, for me, it's Dick Grayson. Jason Todd, I pretty much missed like his whole entire run as Robin. Like, I think when I came on board, really, or like when I really started reading like modern times stuff, the death of the family stuff had already passed me by, and I think Tim Drake was the Robin at the time. I never really had that close a bond with Tim Drake. Damian Wayne is probably pretty cool, but for me it was Dick Grayson, and I think a lot of my upbringing came from Marv Wolfman and George Perez's New Teen Titans, where I got the opportunity to literally watch and read Dick Grayson sort of grow up as Robin and then turn into Nightwing and kind of establish himself. So for me, Dick Grayson has always been one of my favorite, not only just favorite Robins, but favorite superheroes in the DCU. Second would probably be Damian Wayne, followed by Jason Todd, and then Tim Drake for me. But my favorite Robin would be Dick Grayson. What about you, Stewart?
Oh yeah, definitely Dick Grayson for me. Because yeah, you actually mentioned like the comic books that I discovered him in, which is the New Teen Titans, because I love that whole comic book run of the New Teen Titans, and I also absolutely love him. Just when he was in his own solo comic books, both pre 52 and the Rebirth run was really good, right up until the part where he got shot and lost all his memories. That was a bit weird. But before that, I absolutely loved his run. And I just love how much he kind of evolves, like as a character, going from sidekick to team leader, to like even like kind of having like moments of almost being an anti-hero when he was in Bloodhaven. So yeah, he's a great character. Tim Drake would be like a close second, because the first comic book run that I actually kept up with like on a monthly basis when they would get released was the Jeff Johns run of Teen Titans, which had the Tim Drake Robin. And I just, not only did I love his character, I loved his relationship that he had with his teammates, especially with Connor Kent, Superboy. I absolutely love the dynamic between the two of them. And much like unlike with Dick Grayson, where it's like I had to catch up on where he started and where he was at, with Tim Drake, this was actually like the first Robin where I got to watch him kind of grow up, like as he got comfortable in his role as Robin, both working with Batman and learning to like, he does eventually lead the Teen Titans, but it doesn't happen like until like after Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Tim Drake is an interesting one for me, because I do remember collecting his Robin comic when they eventually started kicking off his solo Robin comic book. He was drawn by Tom Grummett at the time, if I'm not mistaken. But I used to enjoy his comic book. He used to have a really badass like red hot rod, I thought, with like a R symbol on the side of it. Not quite his own Batmobile, but he had his own vehicle for a short period of time in the comic books. But I think Tim Drake for me, I think I don't want to say I lost interest, but I definitely fell off comic books for a while. And when I come back, Tim Drake has got all these different aliases and personas. Like, I feel like he's tried to evolve and change himself quite a few times. And I just don't know if it's hit for me personally in regards to all the changes that Tim Drake has kind of been through. Marcelino will just add, now throw in Carrie Kelly into the mix and see who's your favorite then. I don't really know too much about Carrie Kelly outside of her one-off that she wound up having years ago by Frank Miller, but I don't know where I would put Carrie Kelly. I definitely would need to know a little bit more about her before I put her on my list. But yeah, I've always been a Tim, not a Tim Drake, a Dick Grayson guy. I always enjoyed seeing where he started from, his own personal growth. And you mentioned Stewart, just to see how far along he's come in the DC Comics. I mean, to the point of like now, not only was he the head of Titans, but Titans for a short period of time here in the Infinite Frontier storyline, I believe, really became like the the head team of the DC universe in the comics after the Justice League sort of departed. So, Nightwing sort of became the leader of all of the DC. It felt like, that people would kind of come to for these big kind of events and moments. So yeah, I'm always a big fan of Dick Grayson, and I've loved seeing his personal growth. And I think they've done some really remarkable work, especially bringing him to life in the Titans series with damn, who was the guy that played him? I can't remember the actor's name now.
Brenton Thwaites, I think.
Yeah, Brenton Thwaites or something like that. But yeah, I thought he did a remarkable job as Dick Grayson. So I'm ready to see Dick Grayson on the big screen for sure.
Ready to see Dick on the big screen, huh?
Dick Grayson. Sorry,
it was such a low-hanging fruit. I couldn't help but grab that.
I'm gonna start having to call him Richard now around y'all, man. Did you know in the Fleischer Superman cartoon that Superman had a different origin story? In the cartoon, Superman flew from Krypton, landed on Earth, and was taken to an orphanage. In the comics, Superman is taken in by Jonathan and Martha Kent. Really? The Fleischer comic book? I didn't know that. Or the cartoon? I didn't know that. Fleischer Superman cartoon? I didn't know that. I learned something new today, Stuart. Did you know that?
I did not.
The 1940s animated film?
I actually haven't seen that still. I really should, because
I used to love watching I used to love the animation for the Superman animated series back in the 40s. Great stuff, but I didn't know that was his origin story from the series. I just remember watching a couple episodes though, but really loved it. Jessica Friedman, do you think Superman and Lois should have stayed in the Arrowverse, or maybe Supergirl and the League could have come to help Superman fight Doomsday? And would you like to see Cora get her own live action after live action Aang series ends? So do you want to see a live action Cora, Stuart?
Yeah, because I thought, Legend of Korra was a great series. And like I said, I think that Avatar The Last Airbender could improve over time, the Netflix show. And if it does, like by the time they get to season 3, if there's room for more, if they've kind of, improved, if they show like that they're actually doing better and not doing worse, yes, I would definitely love to see a Legend of Korra live action series.
And I personally do think Superman and Lois should have stayed in the Arrowverse. I personally don't see the reason why they had to. Did they say why, Stuart? I can't remember why they separated them like that. Did they say?
Todd Helbing claimed that DC made them do it, but I find that hard to believe. Because I don't know why DC would care whether or not it's connected to the Arrowverse. But yeah, no, I do also think that it should have stayed in the Arrowverse. Story-wise, there's no reason it couldn't have. The only kind of thing I could see is that, but for the death of Superman, you'd have to explain why Supergirl isn't around. But for that, I'd say that they didn't even know that's what they were doing when they wrote that line that separated Superman from the Arrowverse. So they didn't even know they were going in that direction yet, because that was like seasons before. And then the other thing too is that you still have Steel, looking after Smallville and Metropolis. So I think that's how you write around having Supergirl, is that you just use Steel as kind of like the stand-in Superman, like they did earlier during season 2 of Superman and Lois. So yeah, I also think I still think that line contradicts so many lines that they used in season 1, because there were a lot of implications in season 1 that superheroes existed in that world, that metahumans were really common, and then for them to kind of backtrack and go, oh nope, just Superman.
Yeah, it felt very much like a bait and switch to me, man. I was kind of really disappointed that they did that. So yeah, there's a part of me that would have liked to have seen them stay in that particular with that out of the way, though, last comments from Power of the Morphing Grid, aka AJ. I think you might have posted this question twice. Yeah, it looks like it. All right. So appreciate you coming through, AJ. Kendrick's sacrifice was a pivotal moment in Power Rangers Lost Galaxy due to Valerie Vernon unfortunately having to leave due to medical condition complications. This defining moment in the series impacted both the characters and the overall narrative. Her selfless act set the stage for the rest of the season and left a lasting impression in viewers, excluding her return in the finale. This unexpected twist marked a true first in the franchise where a ranger actually sacrifices themselves in battle. After her death, the Rangers went on a mission to look for her pink quasar saber on another planet before Trakina's army can find it and use its powers. Kendra's sacrifice paved the way for Melody Perkins to return to the franchise as Corone and allowed her character to be redeemed from when she was evil as Astronema. While Corone's reintroduction brought a new dynamic to the show, Kendrick's presence was still felt. The show managed to still use Sentai footage of all 5 Rangers. Corone, being the second Lost Galaxy Ranger, also marked a first in the franchise where a former villain from a previous series returned as a Ranger. Her return helped bring more lore to the series, while at the same time developing her character. Corone became a Ranger was a great reminder of her famous line, "I wouldn't want to be a Power Ranger anyway." We would later see her return as the Pink Galaxy Ranger one last time, 14 years later as a veteran Ranger. Kendrick's sacrifice again was a pivotal moment that shaped the trajectory of Lost Galaxy. It's not only impacted the character, but also enriched the overall storytelling, making it a memorable and impactful arc in the series. Thoughts on Kendrick as a character, her actress, Valerie Vernon, and of course, Melody Perkins' return as Corone. So real quick, before we talk about this, you did say it also marked the first time the franchise where a former villain from a previous series returned as a Ranger. I guess kind of. When I think of that, though, I also think of Kat, because wasn't Kat a villain before she wound up becoming a member? Granted, it didn't go over to like she vanished and then came back later on. It became a hero, but it is a case of, I thought Kat started off as a villain, and didn't she eventually turn into a Ranger?
Yeah,
I don't know if that would,
just like with Tommy, she started out as a villain
right?
who was controlled by Zed and Rita. But I think what they mean in the comment, though, it's like she was the first. Corone was like the first to come from a previous season as a villain, and then
Okay, I
be
think that's what you're
reintroduced
saying.
in the next season, but this time
As a
becoming
Ranger.
a Ranger.
Yeah, I think if anything, what fascinates me more, and maybe I need to go to more Lost Galaxy panels or talk to the writers about this, but I had Valerie Vernon not had to have left the show due to medical complications, would they still have killed her off? And Melody Perkins would have returned as Corone? Like, would Corone have not had a presence in Lost Galaxy at all, or even be considered to kind of come back? Like, is Melody Perkins' story as Corone truly all dependent on Valerie Vernon having medical complications and not being able to stay on the show?
Yeah, because originally they weren't even going to bring in Corone to be the Pink Ranger. They were going to bring in the I forgot the actress's name, but the actress that played her in the previous season. However, because she was coming in the show like halfway through, they wanted to lowball her, like majorly lowball her, and they gave her basically like not even half of what all the rest of the cast and crew of Lost Galaxy was getting paid. So she basically was like, yeah, hard pass. So they had to do like a last minute change up to the story, and that's when Corone came in. So it was all just kind of a accident that she was written into the show, and it's really surprising that it was as well written as it was, given how Lost Galaxy, from what I hear production wise, they were not the best at like coming up with scripts on a timely manner. Like there were times where they were still writing the scripts in the middle of like filming an episode.
Do you have any overall thoughts on both their characters, though, Kendrick and Corone? I mean, like for me, like I was a really big fan of Corone. it is amazing. I would agree with you. Like, it is amazing to me that despite them having to say farewell to somebody, that they had the wherewithal to come up with this brilliant idea of bringing back Corone and kind of pushing her story even more forward. Because the idea of seeing a villain turned into a hero, I think at the time was certainly unique to the series, and something that was really well welcomed. I mean, you want to talk about trying to make Lost Galaxy feel separate and its own separate thing from anything else that had come previously in Power Rangers. I think Corone, as a character, benefited. I mean, she already had a great storyline in space, but to then build off of that great momentum of hers and include her in Lost Galaxy and give her this arc also, Corone probably has top 3, if not top 5 best, I think, Power Rangers storylines out of all the characters in the franchise. I think she's top 5, if not top 3.
I would agree. I gotta be totally honest, man. I had a crush on her when I was a kid. Yeah, both like as Astronema and as Corone. Like, yeah, I absolutely, she's amazing in both roles as like okay, yeah, at first in space, I'm not gonna lie, she was a bit cringe in the beginning, but once she like really fit into her role as the villain, once she really got like kind of comfortable with the role, she got a lot better at it, to my opinion. But like, yeah, no, I think I really do love her character. It's a redemption arc done right, which is really hard to do, especially when the person you're trying to redeem was like an evil emperor who enslaved several people and basically did unforgivable things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the fact that they took that character and had such a successful sort of anti-hero storyline and she becomes a hero, like I'm hella impressed with how they managed that, for sure.
Yeah. And good for the writers though for committing to, even if she does kind of come back in the very last episode, good for them for committing to like a heroic sacrifice, because there were several other ways they could have like written her out of the show. But it's cool that they went for the heroic sacrifice to really make sure like, her leave on the show would be impactful for the audience,
Yeah, I totally get you. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts down below. What did you guys think of Corone and Kendricks, Corone and Kendricks as characters? Let me know your thoughts. I will. One says Corona is one of the best characters in PR. Yeah, I totally would agree with you there. He said, Marcel says, I kind of wish they had kept Kendricks dead or at least set up her resurrection earlier. I even made my own Lightspeed Lost Galaxy rewrite that involves her death being the focal point. Very cool, Marcelino.
Yeah, that is true. Her resurrection did like come out of nowhere.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to that. But thank you for everybody that certainly provided us with some great live viewer questions today. For sure, man, we really do appreciate it. But yeah, we'll definitely that will wrap it up for us here today. Stuart, I do want to do one thing real quick before we sign off here today. We didn't get a chance to sit down and do a review for this, but you did ask me once, after getting the opportunity to see Joker, Folie à Deux, you wanted to hear my thoughts on it. You've seen Joker, Folie à Deux, I would assume.
I have indeed.
You have. So I just want to take this time before we say farewell to give some brief thoughts, our brief review, if you will, on Joker, Folie à Deux, as this movie's not doing too well at the box office as of right now. Can you look up what the box office mojo is right now for Joker, Folie à Deux? And then also the Rotten Tomatoes for this also. I know we are going a little bit over, but I if anything, I might snip this out of our overall show and then make this its own exclusive video to post up as for our spoilerish review, if you will. So there will be some discussions about Joker, Folie à Deux right now. So spoiler warning, y'all. Spoiler warning. Stewart, what did you think about it overall, man?
Overall, sorry, 1 second. I just want to make sure I found the, okay. So domestic, it is 46 million. And then, international 77 million, so it's a total of 123 million, and that's me rounding down. So of course, yeah, 22. So of course, there's a little bit more, but that to be said, though, for this movie to make a profit, if I'm not mistaken, this had a $200 million budget. And always double that because of marketing. So $400 million altogether, which means for it to make a profit, it's got to make more than $400 million to make a profit. And it's, so probably it'll make its money back by the end of its run. But yeah, it's going to be a minute. But yeah, my thoughts on Joker 2. So I want to first emphasize, this is not a bad movie. This is a very confidently filmed, a very well-directed movie with amazing performances. Huge shout out to Lady Gaga. This is going to sound like a backhanded compliment. It is not. This is actually a compliment. But the fact that she can go from her, natural singing voice, which is extremely good, to sounding like not bad, but sounding flat, sounding like, kind of an average Joe singer, which is really hard to do when you're a good singer, because you can over exaggerate and make yourself sound really, really bad, but it comes off as too obvious. But if you're a really good singer, it's hard to make yourself sound just okay. And she does an amazing job of that. And then she also does a really good performance as well. Same with Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. He, just his mannerisms feel very real to me. He like, I know that this movie was like or the first one specifically was meant to be like a grounded Joker. And I think that's exactly what they kind of pull off. Like, this guy does feel like a real person who is mentally ill. So, I give him props for all of that. Great performances all around. Now, the movie lost me with its runtime and plot together. And the reason is I feel like the runtime was way too long for such a simple plot. I thought the story was kind of cool. Like, we're following the Joker after the events of the first movie, and we're trying to decide whether or not he deserves the death penalty after everything that's happened, or if someone like him does deserve to get actual help. And I like that. That works as a plot. That works as a really good story. Just not as a 2.5 hour long movie. And that's where it kind of lost me, is that there were times where I would get really bored during the movie, and I just wish they would move on. The musical numbers didn't hit me as well as I thought they would. There were 3 times I can think of where I actually thought the music worked with the story, but for the rest of it, like, there were 17 songs, I think, altogether. The
Really?
other 4, something like that. It was a lot. I can't remember. But
wow.
I should look that up. How many musical numbers in Joker 2? But with that being said, there were 3 that I think worked really well. And then a lot of the actually, sorry, I take that back. 2 that worked really well. And then all the other ones just really felt like they were there to pad out the movie. I know they weren't, but because usually in musicals, when someone sings, they give you an insight to the character that you may not have heard before, that you may not have guessed on yourself before. It might give you an insight to the story or the world building, but they never did that. None of the musical numbers told me anything new about the characters or and anything that we were watching. So I didn't understand why this movie was a musical. The 2 musical numbers that we had that I thought worked really well technically don't apply as musical numbers, because musical numbers usually imply that the music is non-diegetic. So it's not like actually playing in the real world in like canon of the world it's taking place in. But both the songs that I thought worked well, and they were both diegetic because they were both the times where like the characters were actually singing like in universe. So yeah, my overall thoughts: very amazingly directed, very well filmed, not the best script.
Do you give it a D though?
A D? No. Like
I only say, I don't know. Only reason why I say D is because that's what the cinema score was.
Yeah,
which really surprised me. I don't know what Rotten Tomatoes has it up as. Let me see if I can find it though. But what would you grade Folie à Deux?
Oh God, what would I? I would give it probably, like, off the top of my head, maybe a C, even a C plus. I think the highest I'd go, I wouldn't go any higher than a B minus, but like, yeah, I would give it a C at the very least, because again, like, very competently made. I may have a problem with the script, but I can't deny the way it's shot looks incredible. Those sets clearly cost a lot of money. And again, the performances you get from everyone, not just Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix, but like even some of the smaller characters like the prison guards. One of the Irish guy, I can't remember that actor's name, but he's so great in everything that he's in. But even though he was only in this movie like for not that long, he was great in it. Like and then same with the guy playing Harvey Dent. It was kind of a cool take on the character, even if we never got to see the multiple personality side of him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes. They have this audience at 32% and critics at 33%. So a lot of people agreeing that they were not big fans of this. That feels really low to me, to be honest with you. Look, I guess if Rotten Tomatoes is like, did you like this movie? Did you not like this movie? If I can see why, like if we were just going from 100% to 0%, did you like it? Did you not, sort of thing? I guess it wouldn't surprise me that this movie is coming in at 30%. That like 1/3 of the audience that went to see it actually approved of it. But I would agree with you, Stuart. When I look at it visually, it's stunning, incredible. I can see where they put $200 million budget behind it. One of my beliefs as to why this budget was so big, Stuart, is probably because the previous movie made $1 billion. So they probably felt we can take a financial risk with this movie and just make a cinematic masterpiece that we kind of want to make. I mean, they literally only spent $50 million on the first one. They made $1 billion off of that. You can't tell me that they probably didn't take some of that money to go ahead and make a sequel. So they probably felt like they got play money here. And their play money is, let's just make a big bombastic musical film as quality heavy as we honestly can. And I think that's what we wind up getting when it comes to Joker Folie à Deux. I would agree with you too, Stuart, in the sense of like, I remember reading an interview where Lady Gaga talks about she literally had to train herself to not sound great. Almost like she had to relearn how to sing to a certain extent, of knowing that you're a great singer, but still having to remind yourself you're not Lady Gaga, you're Harley Quinn, you're Lee, and Lee can't sing quite like you. So how would Lee sing? And the fact that you got to then bring your quality of singing down, but still sound decent enough, sort of thing. Like I was really amazed to kind of see what her and both Joaquin Phoenix had to kind of go through to find their voice, I guess you could say, as both these characters. So in that regards, like, I'm also a musical guy. So I really appreciated some of the musical pieces. The two that really kind of that I really enjoyed. One, when she sets the fire into the hospital and they escape, and they're running out to all the press that are by the fence and stuff, and they escape, sort of thing. I really enjoyed that one, and I really enjoyed the other one too, where he's sort of like I think he's in the courtroom performing, but then it turns into like he's in a nightclub or something. He's on a stage and he's dancing while she's on the piano. I thought that was a great musical piece too. So there are some that are bigger pieces than others musically, but for me, at least, I kind of really enjoyed it. I don't know. I really enjoy what Todd Phillips did here. I can see some of the pushback that some people had, in the sense of like them feeling some type of way about the ending of this film. I thought it was really bold. I definitely didn't see the ending of this film certainly coming, but you had people believing that Arthur Fleck was the Joker, only to have this big reveal at the end here. But I think Todd Phillips' premise is really to highlight the idea that, one, no, this is not the Joker. I don't think he's ever insinuated, but he definitely has implied like this is the Joker that we might know. But I think the fact that even in the first one, when you see the age difference between Arthur and somebody like a young Bruce Wayne, I think we already in our head knew that this guy wasn't going to turn out to be the same person that eventually goes on to haunt Bruce Wayne in his life. But I appreciate how Todd Phillips kind of builds upon the mark that Arthur Fleck leaves on Gotham City in the sense of then building um I don't want to say imitations, but for people in Gotham to build off of what Arthur Fleck has kind of established. And there's something really fascinating to me about that Todd Phillips wind up establishing, along with the idea of us getting a really great introspective look of Arthur trying to or at least them pushing this idea of like, is the Joker real or is it all in his mind? Is it a mental, is it a split personality? Is this truly a mental illness sort of thing? And then learning about Arthur and his past and the revelations that his mom sort of makes and really how it flips Arthur's mind on its head sort of thing. I just really enjoyed the introspectiveness that Todd Phillips brings to Arthur's character in here, emphasizing the mental illness and really establishing sort of the lore that will then go on to become Joker in that sense. I didn't feel ever like a bait and switch or like a Todd Phillips never appreciated the world of DC Comics to give us the movie. I don't think Todd Phillips was ever trying to give us that particular Joker. And I think if we were under that impression, I think that's on the viewers' expectations instead of just allowing Todd Phillips to kind of tell the story that is meant to tell. This is, again, Stewart, why I say we may have fan castings on who we want as actors. We may have fan speculation and expectations of how characters are meant to be. But again, just because we have those expectations doesn't mean that that's what the script is asking for. And what the script was asking for here when it comes to Todd Phillips, I thought he executed it extremely well personally. Now, do I think this movie's perfect? No, not by any stretch of the imagination, but a 33%? No way. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. So for me, I really don't know what I would grade this. I don't know if I see this as a C plus. I do think that a C minus. I do think that this movie might have been a little bit better than that. So I might be somewhere in the B's. It might be a B.
B's.
It might be a B. It might be a B minus. I'm not quite sure as of yet, but it definitely ain't no D or no 33%. I thought this movie was really, really well made and had an idea exactly as to what it wanted to be. It may not have landed with people, but I don't think this movie is as trash or as bad as people are making it out to be.
Mm-hmm. So I may not have liked it as much as you, but I do agree it is not as bad as like a lot of people are saying. Also, so I may not have liked, or I didn't mind the ending. I didn't love it, but I didn't mind it. But
yeah, I didn't mind it. I didn't say I loved it, but I didn't mind it.
But you know who hated the ending?
Who hated it?
Christopher Nolan. Apparently he didn't want them to go with that ending because apparently he got to see the script before the movie came out, and his whole worry was that people are going to watch this and think that this is now a prequel to the Dark Knight trilogy. So he apparently didn't want them to go with that ending. For me personally, I think people are smart enough to know that it's two completely separate worlds. Personally, I just thought it was funny.
I gotta think that as an audience member, you're smart enough to realize like this is just its own world. At first I didn't know what was happening, but then when I see him in the back and you can hear the slicing and you can hear his laughter change and stuff, I was like, oh, like that's, to me, I found it really cool. But I gotta think that the audience is smarter to be able to see that and realize, oh, so he's sort of like the beginning of where this kind of takes off at. And it just reminds me also a little bit too, Stewart, of the Gotham series, if I'm not mistaken. Like
they did that in Gotham. They did something similar in Gotham, right? Where there's multiple Jokers.
Yeah, like I don't think Cameron Monaghan is meant to be the Joker. But I think he's represented in sort of like that first full-fledged person to kind of come out that way. Because then I do think like once they introduced him, you started seeing like Joker graffiti all around the city and stuff, almost like he's growing like this following, if you will. And I think that's what Todd Phillips was really showcasing. So that's what it reminded me of too, was like the Gotham television series in that route. So look, I enjoyed what he did. I think the fact that it was an Elseworlds too allows Todd Phillips to kind of play with it and tell this story in this world and in this sandbox and tell a really important message when it comes to mental health and mental illness. And it's just unfortunate, I think, that some of the fan base just didn't appreciate what he was attempting to do there. Because I do think that some people were holding on to the notion of this is our Joker from the comic books, and I don't know if that was ever really meant to be established so much, or at least for me, that didn't become a thing after I saw Arthur Fleck and Bruce Wayne, with such a huge age gap, I think, interacting in the first movie. So that was never my expectation going into it. But is it a perfect movie? No, it's not. I don't think the musical stuff will work for people. It really worked for me, honestly. But I don't think this movie's as bad as a lot of people are certainly saying that it'll be. But who knows, Stuart? Maybe this is one of those films that people will look back and it'll become a cult classic for them. Maybe they'll see the cinematic masterpiece of it all, with them putting so much money behind it, or maybe it just will flop and people won't talk about this movie ever again. But who knows?
Very possible. I mean, that's happened to me a few times where it's like I'll see a movie, and to me, like the first time I watch it, I'm like, this is just kind of pretentious, doesn't have much to say. I don't really like it. But then oftentimes someone smarter than me will watch it, point out a couple of things I didn't notice, and then when I go back and watch it, I'm like, no, this movie is actually pretty brilliant. So for all I know, that could happen to me with Joker 2. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how people receive it.
I think like one of the funniest examples of that. So you've seen the movie Full Metal Jacket, right?
Yeah, it's been years though, but yeah.
First time I watched it, I was like, I love the first half. Second half was dumb because there was no plot or anything. It was just things happening and just like, like it was just boring. And then someone's like, oh, you mean just like the Vietnam War that they went to? Like, oh, and realizing that was the point. Okay. I'm like, I love that.
That's
just
pretty
that
funny.
one sentence had me go like complete 180 on the second half of Full Metal Jacket.
That's pretty funny. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. How did you feel about Joker Folie à Deux? Did you check it out for yourselves? Do you think it was graded for a D? Do you think it deserved a 33% from audiences and critics, or did you appreciate it a little bit more? We definitely want to know your thoughts in the comment section box below. Again, if anything, we'll chop this up and post this as its own individual review video this week as well. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. But Stewart, that will do it for us today here at APlus Hero Report. We appreciate your guys' patience. Thank you, everybody that certainly watched for as long as you did. Again, we may not be live next weekend due to me covering a convention, Dallas Fan Festival. But if any big news winds up dropping for New York Comic-Con, especially when it comes to James Gunn or the MCU or anything like that, maybe we'll do a quick standalone pre-recorded episode or something for you guys. But we'll definitely keep you posted throughout the week. We do have some videos currently up for you guys. Dragon Ball Daima episode 1 review is up. I plan on doing episodes 3 and 4 review of the Penguin. I'm also going to be doing Agatha All Along episode 5 review for you guys. If not today, then definitely tomorrow for sure. So certainly start looking out for other reviews to drop this week, and a ton more, guys. But that's going to do it for us here today. Stewart, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Instagram. I'll say right there, trying to get, there we go, to a position where my finger can point properly. And yeah, so you can find me at TurboStew01 over on Instagram and on Letterboxd.
And we are everywhere, as you can see, at APlus Opinions down here. If you want to follow us over on TikTok, we're at Hero Report. If you love a forum community, we do have a Discord as well. There is a link in the description box below for you guys. But definitely follow us. If you aren't on our YouTube page, please go ahead and do so. Hit that subscribe button. But also follow us, especially over on our Facebook page. That's where we post all the news, trailers, posters, any big information, featurettes secrets behind the scenes for you guys all throughout the week to keep you up to date. And then we select 6 topics from there to talk about it for you guys here on APlus Hero Report. So definitely follow us everywhere on social media. But that's going to do it for us here. We'll certainly see you guys later on throughout the week. But until then, do us a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.